we love catching fish, and that's ultimately why we got into it. Ultimately, that's probably why everyone gets into it, is for the fish. Like that first time you go fishing, first time you go fly fishing, whatever it is, it's 100% about the fish. Nothing else matters. It's about the fish I catch. But the more you do it, the more people you meet, and the more experience that you have, the places that you travel, it's less and less about the fish.
You have to remember there has to be a freezer pot. Are we on? Are we running?
We're running. I don't know.
We're live?
live?
Oh gosh.
We're rolling.
Yeah, let's not do that because I don't want to come home to a freezer full of just exploded beer. I don't think that would be fun for me.
Have you ever forgotten beers in the freezer? I have.
About a dozen times.
It's happened.
At least. It's always like something strong, like IPA or something. Someone just forgets in there.
And then just sticks for months.
Yeah, literally. But
all right, we ready to fire it up?
Let's do it.
I think we're rolling.
We good?
Are we rolling?
Dude, we're back. Boys and girls, it has been a bit of a hiatus from the podcast, but we finally made it back. Down here in Beaufort, beautiful Beaufort, South Carolina, we got Junior and Rob here. Rob is a fly fishing guide down here in Beaufort, and Junior's also a videographer, does TikTok, Instagram, the whole thing. And a professional drone pilot today, we found out.
I think you're a professional drone catcher. I think you are.
I'm a professional drone catcher,
Yeah.
exactly.
If you were, we'd be firing you right now.
That's what we caught on the low tide, was a drone. So
We,
that's what we caught. It counts.
Almost broke a drone today.
And a rod and an expensive fly rod with it.
Yes.
Like
yes.
I didn't care about the drone. It was the fly rod that
yeah.
the drone was going through the fly rod. And I'm like, no.
Junior's like, I don't want the.
To give it context, I have my jacket like completely over my head, so my only visual is the camera, like the actual fly feed through my phone. So I'm watching this just go down, and I just see like I'm like getting motion sick because the drone gimbal is going crazy, and then all I see is like someone pick it up, and I'm like, well, it's not swimming, so we're good.
I just don't
It almost
understand.
swam.
I don't understand why it
I know.
didn't turn off. Like I
don't
flipped
either.
it. I
was
caught it
upside down.
Caught it, flipped it. It was upside down, and then it kept going.
But it did a weird, like it went like this on you or something. It made your hand
So
turn
it was
at a weird
slipping
angle.
out of my hand, right? And like I
You
think
you just bailed out. You're like, this drone
No,
isn't worth
No,
it.
he didn't bail. He
no.
held on.
I held on to it for a second.
No, I need
Yes,
this
he
thing
did.
taking off with you. Like literally, I need this to be like the movie Up,
but it
and you
went-
just go flying up.
It torqued his hand in a weird way and went straight at the fly rod. And when it caught that line, things
Gone.
just started spinning.
Yeah.
and-
Well, because it
But
turned a little
ironically-
bit, and I think that's
Yeah.
when it fell.
Yeah.
Then
It was crazy.
Then the fly is.
Do we have it on film?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
so
was recording the whole time.
Then we know exactly what happened.
Well, I mean, the drone's going to be like
The
doing,
drone is gonna
bouncing all
be-
over the place. So essentially, the line actually saved the drone. So we're going to go with that.
The
Because
line.
if it didn't hit the line, it
It's
didn't get caught
possible.
up, it would have bounced off the boat into the creek.
It's possible.
I would say.
Yeah.
But we have video. We can literally go back and
Yeah.
this is what happened.
Yeah, I guess we could do that. Essentially, we didn't lose a drone.
Didn't lose a drone.
We didn't lose a finger while trying to catch
Or
the
the
drone.
fly rod.
Or fly rod.
The drone did full on hit the fly rod. Like
Wow.
I think it
ricochet.
knocked it, yeah.
It hit it hard. Like I thought.
Also, to mention, as this drone was crashing to the ground, to the boat, I should say, it bounces. It gets caught in the line, my fly line, in the leader, bounces out towards the water,
Yeah.
was like inches away from falling in the water, and the line just pulled it back in. The line said, "Nope, I'm gonna get caught in the propellers and pull you back in."
Because the propellers were wrapping the line. It was reeling itself in.
It was an absolute shit
And
show.
it's times like that, you just have to believe in a higher power.
The whole
Just,
time
there's
I'm-
someone watching over us. Like, these
Drone
guys who went
gods.
to the ringer this weekend, the last thing we want to end this whole trip on is a soaking wet ruined drone.
It was an Easter miracle.
Easter miracle. That's exactly what it was. We'll go with that. Easter
Yeah.
miracle.
Well, you should be the one to know about drones, because you were recently
Are we already going
a
there?
viral
Viral.
Instagrammer.
Are you want to
Viral.
hang out with us? Like,
I don't know.
Paint the
I don't know
picture.
what- I don't know what the stipulations are for having a viral video on Instagram.
Paint-
I don't know the rules for this.
Dude, I'd say 40 million is
we
a
need
lot
you
of people.
to paint the picture really quick for the people of your recent experience on Instagram and uprising, I should say. Your recent uprising in Instagram and what that's looked like.
So like the video itself is, I mean, it's just we were in a creek and some dolphins started strand feeding. It's something that happens in the low country. It's rare, but it happens, and it's really cool to see the dolphins actually fully beach themselves while they're trying to capture fish. So we weren't catching fish, so I'm like, well, throw the drone up. So we throw the drone up. We took some video of this happening. Looks pretty cool in the drone. Throw it on Instagram. First video got, I don't know, like 1 million views. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Let me edit another little video and throw it on there. You know, whatever.
Just add a little bit of a
some
touch.
stuff that Junior taught me. I was like, oh, I'm gonna throw this together. You know, like put the little music. Put it up on there, and next thing I know, this thing's just ting, ting, ting. I mean, 1 million on the first one was kind of like, oh, that's crazy. We're sitting at 40 million right now.
Dude, when we
Junior's so jealous.
when we got here,
I'm just baffled.
Jealous.
I'm just
I think
baffled.
he's jealous.
I'm not jealous of that.
you guys have to go to Rob's Instagram. Was it Captain
CAPT, so Cap.
Capped Rob Alexander, and you'll see the video. It's really cool video.
It is,
It's
yeah.
really cool footage, but you look at the video and it's so simple. It's just like
It's
an Elton John
nothing,
song
yeah.
and dolphins. And
Beaching themselves. Like,
you went from what followers? What'd you start at? And what are you at?
1,800, I think, is what I was at.
And then you're at what now?
I'm at like 16K.
16K.
Dude, I think the next one, you should have that guy who commentates Planet Earth, like the British guy.
yeah.
What's that guy's name? Like the really
What would-
calm.
If you had 40 million views on the first one, would I be able to call him up?
That's what I'm saying. I think that you have.
I have the
clout,
clout
too.
now.
Yeah, you have
to
the Instagram
call him
clout.
up and be like, hey man, I need your deep voice
Yeah.
to like narrate this thing.
And
'Cause
we're
I'm
here.
a viral like dolphin
I think you could do that.
video guy.
Viral dolphin influencer.
Viral dolphin. Which, by the way, I did want to, we talked about this earlier, but I wanted to mention, like, if somebody wants the mantle of like wild dolphin video Instagram accounts, there's something out there.
There's
a
I'm
need.
not gonna chase
There's
it.
a need.
There's a need apparently.
There's a niche.
I'm not gonna
niche.
chase it. I like what I do.
There's a need.
So I'm not chasing that one, but it's out there. Somebody can come up with a name and start posting dolphin videos.
I think Scotty can piggyback on this. We can sit down and just grind weeks on end trying to cut through footage, edit footage, color grade footage. I think we have some pretty cool stuff, right?
Yes.
And spend just an absurd amount of time on it and get, a couple thousand views.
What I learned earlier was when you're like, did you even color grade that video? And I'm like, what's
You're right,
color grading?
Hey,
Color grade.
well, we should just take a note from your playbook of think
it
smarter, not harder.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep it
Uncolor graded
simple,
raw.
Stupid. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Y'all are thinking too hard about this.
We're thinking way too hard.
I need to find me
What
some
are we
dolphins. That's what I need to do.
Dolphins are cool. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And what I looked at when I was like, well, what's going on with this? If you go looking for like dolphin accounts and stuff, it's all dolphins in aquariums and stuff. Oh yeah, there's no one out there posting like wild dolphin. Maybe I missed something.
I know one, Captain Rob Alexander.
Captain Rob Alexander.
The dolphin guy. Only fins.
Only
Only fins.
There it is.
There it is. See, there's a name for somebody that they can run with.
What was the other one you guys said earlier?
Only fins, right?
I said only fins. You
Fly
said
fin.
wild fins.
Wild fin.
Wild
was
fly
what it was.
time,
Yeah, wild
yeah.
fin.
Wildfin Media.
Yeah. So watch that account's getting
Copyrighted.
grabbed.
Grab all you can, boys and
Edit that
girls.
one out.
It's out there. I
That's a
mean,
good idea.
but there's no one, and that's kind of, I mean, in a way that's sad that there's like, oh, dolphins, and we think of them as being in pens. But these things are wild. They're out there. They're doing cool things, and you can literally see them. But most people, I just don't think ever get to see or imagine like a dolphin in the wild, which is maybe why this thing blew up. I don't know.
I mean, I remember my first time coming down to Redfish in Charleston and seeing a dolphin like right next to the boat. I was like, holy crap,
They're awesome.
and it's a normal thing, for you guys, but yeah, from the outside, it makes sense.
Everybody else listening to this is like, oh, we hate dolphins. Like,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, we hate them. Our dolphins leave us alone, though, for the most part. Maybe if you get around some of the larger populated areas, you might find some dolphins who have been habituated to people and want to come steal your stuff. But our dolphins, they don't care about us. They're like, we can go strand feeding and catch all our own fish.
It's
Yeah.
so crazy. I think we take it for granted. Like, 'cause, like
We
we
do.
see it. So, like Rob especially sees it every day. I see it a lot too. But I think those small things, like we'll see a dolphin strand feeding. Like, man, it's so cool.
We
That's
stop
awesome.
and look when they're strand
Yeah, like
feeding.
we'll see him.
Dude,
and, like,
I'll
that's
run
so-
right by a
that's so
dolphin,
cool.
like wagging his tail, kicking bait around.
Yeah.
All right, hey, it's a dolphin.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
and we take it for granted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then someone who maybe doesn't get to go in the water as much, like experiences that, and that's just like one thing they take away from it is a dolphin or maybe a school of pelicans, like the
more
smallest
than
things that
just
we
the
don't even.
dolphin,
It's like subconsciously
nature
we
in
don't
general.
even. Yeah, that we
Nature
don't
in
even.
general.
We really take for granted that we get to see every day. We're there's a lot of people who don't. But
All that to say, there's your introduction. Fly fishing guide and dolphin influencer.
Dolphin influencer. We'll just go with that.
But to give you guys a little idea, so if you've been following YouTube, the YouTube channel, you know that I recently moved to Utah in January. It's now Easter, so it's April, and we both all got to fish together. Was it December? I think.
I think it was.
Yeah. So December, and we fish and just like hit off right off the bat, which I think is one of my favorite things with fly fishing and just the people I get to meet. It's like you know it when you just click right off the bat. You're kind of on the same page.
Like you get on the boat and you're already having a fun conversation.
Yeah. The barriers, you just break down the walls right away, which is great.
Bryant, we miss you. Brian, we miss you.
Yeah, Brian, we miss you on this trip.
Definitely miss.
Shout out to BR Pat. But we were talking like, man, we got to plan a trip and this and that. And fortunately, we did. We made it happen. And we've been here for the last 3 days. A little fly fishing, beach camping trip, film. We got some epic footage from this one. I'm really excited to start working on this.
One good shot.
Yeah, I think
good
Junior
shots.
got it actually. And it was the one you shot. Yeah.
I think it was a dolphin. I think.
Actually, I don't think I touched.
I might steal some dolphin
I don't
footage
think
from
I
you.
touched the camera this week. I've been just up there polling.
You got the
guys
GoPro.
have been-
Well, you've been
GoPro release
master-
shot.
Yeah.
I did do a GoPro release
yeah,
shot.
You did.
I better make it in the video.
Better.
It'll probably be sideways. Like, can't like. What is
Dude, you were pointing it the wrong direction.
Well, you've like been doing it. Like you've been chefing it up. You've been polling like crazy. You've been doing it all. You like everything else.
You guys have been working so hard on the camera.
We're just
so I gotta-
grinding
I
it
gotta do
out.
Something.
Yeah, you've been killing it.
You let the peasants handle it. The guys with less than 40 million views, like these guys can just.
I don't even
do
know how
it.
to color grade. I can't touch a camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, it's first set of good set of floods that we were confident that the fish would be pretty happy because of the water temperature, had some warmer weather. So we kind of had a good idea that this would probably be a good set of tides that Scotty could come down on.
I think you got to
onto
put a little more to that
fish.
though. Flood tides.
Yeah, flood tides.
So
like
during
during
the winter, flood tides aren't really a thing. I mean, there's some technicalities to that, but they aren't really a thing. So this was the first time that these fish would probably be like
Happy.
they'd get enough water and
Tailing.
the water's warm enough that we might actually be able to catch something. Which we caught a flood tide tailer. Oh, it was a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, but that wasn't what we saw this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see the noticeable change as the water's gone up another 7 degrees. Probably.
Yeah, those first few floods of the flood season, I guess, those fish are kind of in between. They can be a little finicky. It's almost like they're not sure if they should be here or not. It's almost like they're like,
Yeah.
do I? Is this ready for me? Yeah,
we
is this
still
flat?
saw some of those this week.
Yeah,
And we saw
yeah,
some of
yeah. There
those.
was, but we saw a lot more happier fish, especially the last 2 days, compared to the set of floods a few weeks ago, where it kind of officially kicked off flood tide season. I would say.
I would say flood tide season is in session.
Yeah.
And we're off to the races.
And we're sessioning it up.
We're sessioning it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that. I'd say that for sure.
We started out the first day when I got here. We had just prime conditions, absolutely prime conditions. No, we had.
On what planet?
I don't think I've
It was
ever seen.
winter-
I've never fished in wind like we did.
We would not have been there if it wasn't for like, hey, here's our days that we're doing this.
Listen, when it's
I would have
white
stayed at
capping,
the house.
when it's white capping at the boat ramp, it's typically U-turn going right. That's beer drinking time because, it was blowing, it was humming, and to put in context, we're also camping that night, and so setting up camp, getting to the camping spot, it was a tall task, but we got it done, made it happen against all odds.
The dude at the boat ramp, remember, he's like, "Y'all are crazy for going out, man."
Yeah, they're leaving. We're coming in. Everyone's leaving. We're coming. Like, what are y'all doing?
Well, I remember sitting at the boat ramp, and like, I know you guys are kind of like doing your thing, but I'm genuinely thinking like, all right, I have my skiff. We're loaded down with a lot of gear, and we sat at the boat ramp drinking beer for 45 minutes.
Yeah, we were kind of.
And I was like looking
Like,
at
just,
the
like,
weather, and I'm looking at the wind, looking at the tides, like which way is the water, and finally I came to the decision, like, I think we need to take half this stuff out of the boat, and then I'll be comfortable making this run out to the campsite.
I'm actually convinced that like stone sober, we're probably like, we shouldn't do this. We're like, let's drink a couple of beers, and we're like, all right, then maybe we can make this happen.
I was only
Yeah,
one.
We're good.
In.
Couple beers in, we're like, all right, well maybe we can do this.
No, with half the boat. Dude,
Yeah.
it was sketchy.
Yeah.
I mean, the boat was fine, but we were jumping some waves.
Scotty was holding on for dear life.
Have you ever been in anything like that in a small skiff?
I've been in some pretty big waves, like with my buddy Rob, who's on the last podcast that you guys saw. It was like in the ocean. Like we had gone out to the ocean to go to another creek.
Oh yeah.
But it wasn't like that. Like it was rollers, you know. So he was kind of riding the waves.
Ride them. These we were like.
I couldn't believe the skiff was able to handle it. Like we were going over shit that, dude. It was like,
and I mean, loaded down. Like we were pretty loaded down, even with half the camping gear. Like it was pretty heavy.
We had some weight in the boat.
Yeah, we had some weight in the boat. Like it wasn't
that boat will handle some stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cool design, but yeah, that was if I hadn't done stuff like we've done. I've taken that boat and situations like that enough times where it's like, okay, I know it'll do it, but you don't want to get squirrely with it or anything. You want to keep some nice straight lines and get to where you're going.
Yeah.
When we got to the island, and you saw that sand just blowing over those dunes. Like, what was your initial thought? You're like, are we really gonna camp out tonight? I mean, like, were you like, or we're gonna do it? We're just gonna send it.
I remember you saying something like, "Oh, it'll die down later," and I'm like, "All right, sounds good."
I was trying to soften the impact a little bit. Like, there's something to look forward to.
Yeah. No, it was gnarly. I mean, I'm always like I was in film mode at that point, right? Because we just started shooting. I obviously am thinking about the trip, but I was like, oh, this is cool to film. You know, this is a cool little section. You know, it was like, it looked so sick with the sand. It looked like we were in the desert, essentially. And yeah, but yeah, going over to put our stuff down, I was a little like, oh shit, this is legit.
Yeah, I was like, this isn't anything bad. And when I hopped off with that table and I about just got like taken away like a kite, I was like, yeah, this isn't no 5 to 10. This is blowing like 25, 30 right here. This is humming.
At least 30.
Yeah.
Like a solid.
Like when a full table almost takes me away into the Atlantic, I'm like, oh man.
I didn't think we were gonna be able to leave it there. That was my initial
We
thought.
shouldn't have.
We should. Yeah. What happened, Junior?
Tune into the full video and go to see what went down there.
Spoiler alert! Watch the film before you.
Well, yeah. I guess to give a little lead in. So we get to the island. We're wanting to fish the flood tide. We drop off the gear, and it's probably a couple hours past low tide. But to my defense, the wind was blowing pretty good. It was bringing in a lot of water that we didn't kind of expect. So there's a lot more water that came in.
The tide was not supposed to be as big as it ended up being. And it wasn't supposed to be anywhere close to as big.
Yeah.
So in theory, yes, you're right.
So I kind of hugged up, me and Scotty kind of hugged up some of the gear next to this dune where the wind was kind of blowing over because I didn't expect that water line to get that high. I had an idea.
Yeah,
we've done this before.
Right.
We've camped out here before. So we go fish, get the second load of gear to bring back. At this point, it's pitch black. I mean, I think we just had the artificial headlamp.
We had the moon,
yeah,
a full moon, which was
headlamp.
awesome. But we had the artificial lights.
So me and Scotty go on the trek to kind of find our stuff. Can't kind of find it. It's pitch black. Finally find it, and all you see is the dry sand and the wet sand and the water line all the way up and down this bank. And this water line literally splits our stuff in half. Like
the tents are fortunately on the dry side.
Yeah, there's tents, like a couple sleeping pads tied up, and then the table, not so lucky. The camp stove, all that was pretty wet
and sand,
and
full
sandy.
of sand.
But thankfully, we didn't lose anything, and we slept in a dry tent.
Inches. I mean, the tents for some reason it was inches away from being soaked.
Or
so
washed
just,
away.
Or just
taken
gone.
Taken into the Atlantic.
And, and just so y'all know, we're talking after. This is after we fished. We came back to the island when we were about to camp, and we found our stuff. The tide had come up, and then it had gone back out, but it was inches away from taking all our stuff away.
I know when I walked up over the dune, and I saw the waves and how close they were, and I'm like, no. It's like, no, please.
And you were mic'd up. I remember because I was filming.
Was I mic'd up?
Yeah, and you're like, yo, that's the ocean right there.
that right there, that body of water is the ocean. And I just see I see the white caps rolling, and I'm like, oh, dude, that's pretty close to our stuff. And I know, like, we'd already fished the flood, so that tide had come down. Like, that water line had come down a bit. So I'm like, oh, if it was that high, I started getting worried. Like, on the way over there, we were like kind of BSing around, like, oh, hopefully our stuff is there. Then when I got to that island and I saw that, like, where those waves were, I was like, oh, I might get left on this island. These guys might leave me.
I never went onto the island because the wind was blowing so bad.
Oh, you probably
that I had to
me in the face.
I just dropped you guys off and then kept the boat kind of out.
Just in case if it did leave, that you could be like, peace out, I'm going back to the dock.
Something like that, or just to keep the boat from getting bashed against the beach. Mm-hmm. And so I never saw where the gear was at. But the whole time where we were out there and I saw how high the water got, it's like, oh, surely Junior put the stuff in a high spot.
It was a pretty high spot.
No, it was. It
like,
really,
it literally was
it
a high
should have
spot.
been.
The tide rose a lot.
Like, a lot.
It was a really big tide.
Well, I guess off of that.
Which was fun, though, because it was a fun tide because we...
So we went out. We got to fish. So we initially dropped the camp gear like midday, and then went out to. Was it just the flood that we fished that night?
No, we fished that creek.
Okay, we did a little.
Fished the creek. There were a few tails in there, some backs. Nothing wanted to play, but.
Mm-hmm. Then we went into hit the first flood tide. At least my first flood tide of the year, and
our second one.
Wind was still cooking.
It was still blowing pretty good. And those fish, even with the wind, they weren't. I mean, they were still pretty spooky. Yeah. Those fish on that first flood, they were still kind of spooky.
Oh, are you talking?
I was talking about low of the flood.
Where were you going?
Either way.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't really remember the low.
It was really cool.
Yeah, the low. I thought we were talking about. I thought we were talking about the flood.
That creek is pretty cool because. Like you could see the backs, you could see the tails, but they just wouldn't play.
Yeah.
So I'm still hung up on that. I'm hung up on the entire low tide.
Yeah.
We're talking about the happy things, fish being caught.
Let's go to happy things, like actual.
Like Scotty's on his first flood tide red, which was pretty awesome.
I mean, we had a couple shots right the first night
On the flood.
Yeah. Couple shots.
Had a couple shots.
Blew a couple shots, but
they were being spooky.
Yeah,
they were being that early. What we were talking about earlier, that early spring kind of shifty. Don't really know if we need to be here. They weren't really happy fish.
Dude, Friday night feels like a week ago.
Dude,
like I'm like trying to reel back.
So crazy.
It was like 2 days, 2 nights ago. I'm just like, it feels like it's been a week. But yeah, first flood tide red, and it was still. I mean, it wasn't perfect conditions by any means. You know what I mean?
I really enjoyed the camping, as much as it had its challenges.
Wind, sand fleas,
sand all over your
sand in all the gear
and everything in your sleeping bag. I love the aspect of camping for any sort of trip. I think it's a way to kind of immerse yourself in the woods.
Much more depth in it. It's more than just like a fishing trip. You're going out there, and I don't know. There's something different about it.
Yeah,
it's good for the soul.
Yeah, I was gonna say though, what do you guys like? Why do you guys think camping adds such a unique, or what element does it add? Do you think in like a fishing trip situation, and like why do you guys like to do it?
I think because fishing in itself, we do it all the time. You go out, you experience it. It's fun. There's something primal maybe about sleeping under the stars, a campfire. Food cooked on a fire. Maybe if it's a little more technical these days, like the camp stove, but it's something more immersive. It's something that it resets the way I think. I can really, when I walk away from a camping trip, it's a different feeling. I feel like I was more connected to the outdoors than just a fishing trip. Well, fishing's great. I mean, I love to fish, but it just takes it to another level. And then the more days you spend in the woods, like the deeper that level goes, to the point where, like, if you spend a month in the wilderness and no cell phone, like, and you're just camping, you feel pretty connected with the wilderness. But I mean, just doing it for a night, even you start to get a little more connected with the outdoors, and something that we stay in these nice sheltered houses and never expose ourselves to the elements. I think it's good to do occasionally, just to connect with what's out there.
Yeah, and I feel like it simplifies things too.
Oh yeah.
You basically dummy it down to the basics, right? Like the camp stove is super simple. Like what you're cooking, what you're bringing, your sleeping setup's really simple, and I think that's good because a lot of times kind of try to overcomplicate things.
I think there's something you said about the camaraderie of it as well. It's even the planning out process, actually making it happen, and when you add like fly fishing or fishing into it, it's almost just like makes that whole situation a lot better, a lot funner. You have something to look forward to, I guess. And there's something to be said about like the conversations around a campfire on a couple night camping trip. You know, some of those conversations that you have, you know, might never leave that campfire, but there's something to be said about the camaraderie it keeps and in those experiences, those memories that you'll always have. You know, we fish flood tides all the time. But to say that we camped out, hit the flood, woke up, hit the flood, head back to camp, eat breakfast, make coffee. Like it's just
saw the sunrise.
Saw the sunrise. Yeah. And it's just it's an awesome experience, I think.
That camping has a little extra element to it though, because you're right on the beach with the waves crashing, but you've got the sand and the sand fleas and all this other stuff. But something about those waves crashing and a campfire, or making coffee in the morning with the waves crashing, I don't know. It's special. It's special.
Scotty, you want to touch on the sand fleas?
Have you ever experienced those?
Let me learn you something about some sand fleas.
South Carolina State bird.
Dude, I have never experienced
Swarms
bugs.
of sand fleas.
I've experienced pretty bad mosquitoes, but that was like next level.
Yeah.
So I mean, how do you explain it? Essentially, it's gnats that are like devil gnats.
Demonic
gnats.
Yeah.
that bite you.
That Satan actually created and put on this planet. And they get all over you and all over your stuff. I don't even know how, like, where they appear. There's one now. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but they would be everywhere. Like I would have to get into my tent and get in there and zip it really quick.
Yeah.
And they would still make it in there.
I think, and it was like, when we get to the island, it's windy, obviously, so we have no sand nets around. And obviously, you know, we set up camp, we cook, set up the tents, you know, we do some, you know, video, photography stuff. And at that time, the wind starts to die down. About the same time we start going to bed,
nice,
like to turn in for the night. And as soon as we lay down, they just come alive.
I planned on sleeping in just my sleeping bag under the start.
I didn't even bring a tent. You brought a tent. Thank the Lord, but I didn't, because
I didn't set it up though.
Full
I was
expecting.
Like, was it 10:30, 11 o'clock at night? And I was like, all right, I'm going to bed. And I like sit down, kind of got out of the wind because the sand dune was there, and started I couldn't see them, but just started feeling them and knew exactly what was happening.
So like fully expecting to sleep out in the open, be fine. Wind dies. We've been like, our teeth have been getting bashed in all day because of the wind. Just getting out there, getting out,
trying to fish,
trying to fly fish. Yeah, exactly. And then the moment we go to sleep, the wind dies and the sand gnats come alive, and they're swarming at this point.
That's when Scotty found out he made a huge mistake.
at that very moment.
He's like, what am I doing out here?
Moment, I'm with two weird guys and a bunch of sand gnats.
And a bunch of sand.
But you didn't mention
sand,
how much does the bug spray help?
Oh, nothing. No, it doesn't. Don't even waste your pennies, folks.
It's a conspiracy theory.
No, I actually do think some of the bug spray worked, but it's a placebo effect almost. But yeah, the sand fleas were terrible. But besides that, I mean, it wasn't that bad. I thought the morning was epic.
Morning was awesome.
Like
yeah,
it
was
always.
Awesome.
I mean, I think we went to bed at 12:45. Woke up at 5:50, 6. Didn't get that much sleep, but man, getting up, and I'm glad because I went back in my tent to like try to go back to sleep for another 20 minutes, and you were like, "Yo, sun's about to come up. I'm about to make some coffee. Like, come. You want to start filming?
You don't want to miss the sunrise."
Yeah, but I'm glad I got out there and we got to watch it because we literally saw it come over the I don't even know the horizon.
Horizon, yeah.
And I've been so used to now living in the mountains where you don't see it over you see it over the mountains, so it gets light and then you don't see the sun until.
I didn't really realize that.
Like there's a shot that I got. I wish we had
Flatlanders.
Yeah. I wish I got like a tighter shot of it, but you could see the sun. It's just barely peeking, and then half of it, and then eventually all of it. But to see the colors and, like you said, hearing the waves, it was a really cool experience.
That's interesting.
And the smell of bacon, or a smell of what you have whipping up on the stove, then the hot coffee.
It wasn't the stove. It wasn't the stove.
What happened to the stove?
The gas was done. There was no gas in the mornings. We had to improvise, kick the coals together, get the fire going.
It's definitely not because I left it in the water, right? That's definitely not.
I don't think so.
We
I think
yeah,
because it was dying at the very end of dinner. The fire was getting lower and lower, and I was kind of concerned about it. But I was like, I'll be all right. So, but no, we were fine. We made coffee on a regular fire.
Yeah, that was cool. That was really
cast
cool.
iron on the fire. Let it happen.
And then we were ready to rock. Let's do it. We were ready to take on anything at that point.
Because then we had no wind. Well, moderate, like very light wind, and the
lot of
water,
sand
the water
gnats.
was coming in,
Yep.
and we had that flood tide, and
Yeah, because that's why we were up early to get out to the flood tide.
Otherwise we would have slept in.
Yeah.
Screw the sunrise.
Oh, the sunrise is so epic, dude.
Yeah.
On the beach, they're pretty amazing.
Yeah, they're cool. The flood tide was sweet. I got my ass whooped in the morning. And that's kind of, I think, one of the things I love about the saltwater stuff, and just coming into a new fishery, is you get confident in what you do and say like where you're typically fishing, like trout fishing or small streams, whatever I do, and then you go somewhere new, somewhere like saltwater, and I feel like I was in a completely different element, you know. And
it's good to get out of your own element.
Yeah, and like the couple shots that I had in the morning, which were really good shots, a couple of them were just like, blew it a little bit, or just didn't make the best cast.
They were being pretty spooky. They were being really spooky that morning. Like I said, it feels like a week ago now, but I think one thing you did really well too is if there was a situation where you like had a question, you'd ask it and you would apply the answer. So like if we were like, maybe we should try leading. These fish are being really spooky. Let's try leading that fish maybe a little bit more, or getting that fly past it and meeting that fish instead of maybe like right on the fish or right on the fish's nose, which sometimes you'll put it on that fish nose and it'll eat just like that. Other times, they won't. They're animals. They have a mind of their own. But you were doing really good actually implementing what, kind of what we were advising. Not saying that we know everything, and fly fishing, there's no black and white, but if we had, some advice and we shared it with you, that next fish, you were doing you're basically doing what we.
It was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, it was
every
awesome
fish,
to see.
every shot you get better, and that's the cool thing about
Right.
sight fishing in general. Every scenario is different, but like if you apply the basics and like you get better. You're gonna start out rough, but you get better with every one.
When you
see that,
when you saw that first tailing redfish, what was going through your head?
Dude,
that was Friday night.
I need a play-by-play. Like when you see that first tailing redfish,
that was a happy fish too. I mean, he didn't end up being happy, but he was.
I want to know like what's going through your head, your knees knocking, your heart's thumping. What's going on?
You know when you're about to go on like your first date with a girl, or something like that.
Yeah,
and you're so nervous.
Yeah,
I was just scanning, whatever, chilling, talking with you guys. Instantly nervous. Like those butterflies hit my stomach.
Yeah.
Knees are like shaking. I'm like, oh my god, there it is. I gotta make the cast.
Knees knocking hard. I can hear that like in the lav, Mike.
Yeah,
the heart thump. I'm here in the lav like.
No, dude, it really. I haven't gotten that like feeling from another type of fishing before.
And it's such a quick rush too.
Yeah,
like
it's a quick
like
rush.
You're so calm and you're in such a zone, scanning, looking for a fish, making sure your fly line's managed, and making sure the fly, the weed guard isn't messed up on the fly. There's all these different things that's going through your mind, and you're scanning this flat, looking for fish, and then the moment it arrives, it's just like chaos. It's like mayhem. Like your heart's thumping, your knees are knocking. You start kind of breathing a little bit quicker, and then it's like. The shot can happen in seconds. I mean, it's
sweating talking about it. I had to take my jacket off.
Well,
watching a tail,
seeing
moving through the mark, and like you can physically see that fish. There's nothing blind. Like there's your fish.
Well,
and then you want it so bad.
Yes,
and you're like, oh man, and you're trying so hard, but you need to be nice and smooth, keep everything tight, because you literally need to hit like a small spot. You can't hit the fish. You can't lead them too much. You know it, like that fly needs to go into place.
Right.
And you're so nervous. Oh man, it's
the best. It's the best.
So much fun because it's challenging, but at the same time, like the reward, as few of them as you actually get to the boat, there's nothing like I could catch one fish doing that and be way happier than I would have catching a whole bunch of fish
at that
just
one,
pulling them out of blindly. Not that I don't like doing that, but something about seeing a fish and chasing that fish and its tails out of the water.
You forget, and you just forget about everything else. Like
you
forget about the sand gnats. You forget about the
That's the one time you might forget about the sand gnats.
Or the 4 hours, the 4 hours of sleep that you got. You forget about all this other stuff leading up to that point, up to that moment, and then it's just you and the fish, and it's no one's gonna make that cast for you. You know, you have the guy on the back end to put you in the best position as he possibly can. But at the end of the day, it's you and the fish, and it's on you to make it happen. It's such a crazy experience because there's not a lot of, you know, something can be said about a fish in a foot of water. It's sight fishing, but a fish in a foot of water tailing, and you know that it has to be in that spot. Like that fly needs to be in that spot, and it's up to you to make that cast and make that happen. And then once that does happen, all those crazy things connect, and that fish eats. It's a moment. It's like that's why every fish feels like the first fish. Still to this day, to me,
every fish.
Yeah, 1 to 1,000, they all feel it feels the same. I get the same excitement every single time. And then it was like with that morning, we'd had that crazy day before. We'd had that crazy the night of like just
all the other things that went wrong too.
All the build up. You know, all the build up to that moment. Shout out to Rob's phone for being waterproof.
We weren't gonna mention some things.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, we can cut that one out. But like so many little things build up to that moment for it to actually happen, and then it does, and it's just like such a release of like just like awesome energy, and it's awesome to see the excitement, you know, and like for someone like, you know, someone who's out west or in North Carolina to be able to put that person on their fish or first flood tide tailor of the year. It's just it's almost as cool for me to see you doing that, and to like put it in context, you learning and you doing everything that you can to better yourself as a fly angler, and then boom, it happens.
Well,
right.
That's what I was going to say, which ended up working out.
And it works
like
out.
In the end, the fish you ended up catching was like the hardest shot of the day.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
Well, no, not today.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. The first one that I caught.
The first one you caught was the hardest possible. Well, I think I might have actually said he ate or something crazy like that, because I was like, "What?
Yeah, like, oh, he's swimming away from the boat."
And
going completely away from the boat at like 9 o'clock.
You landed the fly right out in front of him. Did everything you were supposed to do. Everything. It was like you'd done it 1,000 times, and just
boom,
fed that fish. That was crazy.
And we just erupted.
I lost my mind.
Good thing I didn't have a mic, because I'd probably have blown it out. Like I was just so pumped.
That's the other thing. It's like such a team effort too. Like you get to enjoy that experience with the group, right? So we're all yelling, hooting, hollering, like, "Oh my God, he ate!"
That's a good way to put it. That's a great way to put it.
And so that's also what makes it so exciting. And then you bring the fish to the boat, and like you all get to celebrate, and you know, release the fish, get a shot or whatever. What was I gonna say? Oh, just I think you almost have to let your guard down a little bit coming into something new like this.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely had to like swallow a little. You know, you kind of have to like swallow pride of like what you know, right? Yeah. And coming into something like this, because this is y'all's thing, right? You know way more than
we're learning.
You're learning, but you know way more than I do.
Always learning.
But like it took a couple of my shots of like missing the fish, you know, spooking the fish, and then I remember you said something like, "Hey, dude, don't look at the fish when you're casting. Look at where you're casting and like try to lead the fish." And I think that one I caught, even though it was the hardest one,
I was like,
everything looked perfect.
Somehow I remembered it.
You had like led him to the point, like in probably the only place that fly he would have eaten that fly. Mm-hmm. You lead him in that perfect spot in that feeding zone. He sees it, eats it, boom, we're on. And like I said, you listen to those things to be better, and you apply them. But what's crazy is you can do everything right.
Yeah,
and that fish won't eat. And it's that's what draws us back. And it's like that's what draws us back, and that's like the intrigue, because how many times have we done nothing right? Bad cast, fly land, it's something, and the fish eats. Mm-hmm. And then there's times where you do everything perfect, and he's like, "Nah, man, not today."
Literally looks at it and goes the other way, and
you're just like Scotty, who does it all right, perfect, and then he eats, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm just." I
don't know about that does it all, bro.
Dude, that shot was good.
That shot was a great shot.
Thanks.
It was so impressive. I like rewatching it and the audio and everything going into it.
I think I almost like stopped recording because like there's no shot this fish eats. I was like,
"Oh, dude,
this guy's going away."
You always take the shot, like the fish. He's moving away. I'm looking at that fish. I'm like, nah, that fish isn't really happy. But there's no way you don't take the shot. If anything, it makes you a better angler, because the practice of putting that fly in front of a fish, it helps build. But I mean, you did it. You put it, like Junior said, where it needed to be. The fish ate. I was ecstatic.
Yeah, I was pumped.
Absolute morale booster. Like
Oh,
the
we
morale
needed it. After
from
getting
that moment on.
after
We're
getting our
like, we
teeth
can take
kicked
on the
in
world.
the day before.
Gosh, man.
With that wind.
Was that the only fish we caught that? Or no, because later that night
yeah,
we
we
had the
transitioned
second
into the
flood.
well, no, we
second flood.
transitioned to the low tide and just there's fish in these creeks and we just can't find they won't eat. Remember
They were
we
there.
hit they were there.
yeah.
They just didn't want to eat.
Moving around, a couple backs, a couple tails, happy fish, juniors. Dude, putting a fly. I mean, right down the creek.
Just doing what I could.
They wanted to make you feel bad.
Yeah, they did. I
He
think
was
that's
so
what it was.
mad. He
I
was
was
so
like,
upset.
You kept your cool though. I was impressed.
The rejection, like just getting rejected. Oh, did you finally get him?
Got the
Yes.
mosquito.
It was pretty sad. It was sad to watch. The fish just.
didn't
that's
even
one of those
care.
things. It's like
They didn't
they're
even care.
You can do everything right.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah,
be in the
yeah.
right. You can. The fish are there. They're tailing, but it's not. I said this before. You would think sight fishing would be like shooting fish in a barrel because it's the dream. There's the fish, and sometimes you can even see them feeding, and you put that fly there, and sometimes they just don't see for whatever reason. It's not easy. It's not easy. Sight fishing in general, to catch one of those fish on the fly.
There's just so many different factors to play
So many
into
variables.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there,
So you were pretty low. You'd been
I was-
rejected a lot.
I was mad. It was personal vendetta at that point.
I love it. Your thing's always, I'm gonna sell all my gear.
I'm gonna sell it all. I'm just a camera guy now. I just video. I don't know anything. But yeah, so we do that, and then we move straight into the flood, right?
Yeah.
For after that,
We're
like we don't know if
had
we're
a
gonna get
pause,
water.
and we had, and I think this is what made the difference.
Oh yeah. So morale was pretty low at that point. We're pretty much set up, waiting for the water to come onto the flat. I think Scotty mentions, this would be a good time for a beer. So we grab some Modelo's, we get the tahine, cut up some lime, and rally beers commence, man. Yeah. Rally beers. I think that's what changed the game.
I really do think the rally beers were what
The rally beers. Absolutely.
rally beers.
because then the water came in, and it was
And then it turned on. Because it was a late flood, so we knew we only had kind of a short
we had
window.
40 minutes before
Yeah.
it was 7:20 that the boat was going into the grass.
Yeah.
And it was getting dark at 8:00, and we knew that for a fact.
And then I was on the bow. Right, I was on the bow. Had some happy tailing fish. Was able to make it happen. Low light. Right, the sun was almost basically down. And dude, I honestly, the whole town probably heard me. I was yelling. You were yelling. I think Scotty was like just trying to keep us cool and film. He's like, these guys are hooligans. These guys are crazy. These guys are madmen.
I was loving it.
Well, we were talking about the trout guys all real quiet on the rivers and stuff, and us out here in the skiffs like, yeah. It's in our minds.
It's solitude. We're gonna be on the river and be quiet. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's us.
I get quiet when I'm in the river. Too.
We get loud on the river sometimes too. Yeah. No, but yeah, it was right away. We got on that flat, and it was like
1, 2,
instantly.
3. We didn't catch the first.
Yeah,
fish.
because you had a
It
couple
was
shots.
like
Yeah.
there's a fish. There's a fish. We had shots. We were getting shots, and the fish were tailing and happy. And then we found that fish that was like that. That's your fish. I mean, he was happy.
He was happy.
And you fed him.
Fed him, got tight, got him to hand. I was pumped.
That was so sick, dude.
I was pumped.
I remember it was so much
I
fun.
was excited.
Crazy.
It was fun. It honestly was really fun filming. I feel like we probably talked about this week, but filming while you're not fishing is so much fun because you feel also so part of the event or of the experience, right? Of catching the fish or whatever. Because I'm trying, I'm sitting there with the zoom lens trying to like lock in, trying to catch focus.
You had 6 shots of that tail.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch him back, but then you get the shot, and that's so exciting on my end. It's like, oh my god, I was in focus, got the shot.
Yeah, it's like
you caught the fish, like let's go, Yeah, but that's
it's like we all have to make the shot. I have to make the shot on the bow. You have to make the shot on the camera, and just Rob's just chilling, hanging out back there.
Oh yeah,
just
just
laughing at
not
us.
doing anything.
Doing all the hard work.
Doing nothing in the back. Don't worry about it. But then I got to get on the bow.
Dude, then finally Rob got on the
Yeah,
front.
you finally got your turn in line in the lineup.
Dude, it was nice. It was nice because that first fish you pointed out, I look over, you're like, it's a fish, and I looked over and I was like, that's not a fish, because it was out of the water.
Oh,
it was out of the water, like his back, his tail, like
So
from my angle, it looked like a raccoon or something swimming through the water.
Yeah, so
not a fish.
We're sitting on this flat. I'm polling. Rob's on the bow. Scotty's filming. We're on this flat. That's the flat that I caught my fish. There's a creek that separates to another flat. And on this other flat, which is probably, how far away? Probably 75 yards maybe was the next flat. And then I just see this big tail, just super happy, middle of the flat. And I see it. I say, Rob, that's a fish at 12. He's on the next flat. We're going to have to cross this thing. You're like, that's not a fish. That's a raccoon.
That's a horseshoe crab.
That's a horseshoe crab. I was like, no,
Nah.
that's a big fish. I was like, dude, that is a big fish.
And it was. I mean,
he's just a big fish.
When I first, of course, once we actually, it's like, oh yeah, that is a fish. But when I first saw it, there was so much of that fish was out of the water, and the light was really low. It didn't look like a fish to me. Like it was moving, but it looked like something else.
But then he wasn't having it, right? That guy, he was.
I still have a vendetta against that fish.
Yeah,
I feel like
he wasn't having it.
that. He was happy. At times it was almost like his eyeballs were coming out of the water. It was so shallow, and I put that fly right where I thought it needed to be. And like we talked about a minute ago, sometimes it just doesn't work out. But I wanted that fish because that fish was big.
About the same time, yeah.
I wanted it so bad.
Was that one spooked, right?
Yeah, he spooks. He beelines
But then
it
it
off
was
the
like,
flat.
don't worry about it. While we saw him, then before he was even gone, before that shot, there was another tail, and another tail behind that. And we
like a line of tails.
I had a line of tails, and it's like, well, let's go.
And it worked out, yeah.
Yeah, well, because I remember when there was 2 or 3 tails that we were looking at, and you were casting that one to the left. Junior's like, no, fish, one at 12
like, no, but I want the one. That one was so big.
Yeah,
I want that fish.
And he's like throwing up his middle finger while leaving the fly. He's like, I'm out of here. He's like, I'm done with these fools.
And he
I
threw
was
a
like, I want
laser.
you.
It was like instantly.
I didn't even. I was.
Boom.
I hadn't even got my hands.
You hit him on the
situated
nose,
right.
and he just
Like,
ate it.
Just boom. He
crushed
ate it quick.
It was like right off his nose.
So sick.
And then it's an absolute stoke turnaround.
Yeah, 'cause we just got 2
stoke
fish
face.
after.
Yeah,
just getting rejected on the low tide all day.
Yeah.
How does that feel like after pulling all day and the day before, and then finally getting up there and getting a shot? Is that just the best feeling?
That's a pretty good feeling because I love being on the pole, like being up there and controlling the boat, spotting fish. What you see up there is so much fun. Like I truly enjoy pulling. Like it's fun. It's fun to put people on fish. I love it. Junior's like, oh, you can get like, no, dude. I love being up there. But yeah, I love catching fish too.
Yeah,
like you gotta get on the front, and then to have like the fish lined up like that, it was just fun. It was fun.
It's a good ending to the night. Like,
because that was it.
That's what we went
there
from.
was like 10 minutes more of light, and we ran back in the
Yeah,
dark.
We probably
was
went from
dark at that point.
just a crazy all-time low after just what we dealt with, because at that point we had already broke down camp. We had headed
Well,
back.
the storm was supposed to. We wanted to camp out 2 nights.
Yeah,
but
we
then
wanted
a
to camp
storm
out
was
2 nights. We
coming
had a
in.
big storm coming through, so we hightailed it out of there, off the island, broke down camp, kind of freshened up a little bit, got some grub, headed back out there, and had a tough time on that on the low tide. Hit the flood, morale was pretty low, and then just in that little window, like spirits were all time high. Like that boat ride back from that flat. I mean, how happy were
We were
buzzing.
bugging. Yeah.
Oh, dude, we were buzzing. Those beers tasted just a little bit better, and that dinner just tasted a tad bit better,
Oh,
man. Like it was just a great ending to a night, and it's something to be said about you. Really, just we were grinding
Was
our
that last
tails
night?
off, huh?
It feels like forever,
Dude,
ago.
that
Last
was
night feels like
last
that's
night.
what I'm saying. Like last night feels like days ago.
Wild.
But I think there's something to be said about we deal with all these factors and we grind our tails off, and then for it to end like all it takes is that that short window.
There's something to that. Like that's the part of fishing that I love. If it was all out there and it was always I'm catching, dude, we just go out there and we just slay fish and we're always catching fish, I wouldn't like it anymore.
Yeah,
I would go find something else to do. There's something about that grind, and then the lows, and then the highs that keep bringing me back. if it was all highs, I'd go find another sport, something that challenged me.
Yeah, it's definitely what brings like,
so like it all comes
keeps you in.
together.
Yeah, it keeps,
but man, the highs feel good. The highs feel so good.
Yep.
But it's bad. It sucks that we have to experience the lows for the highs to feel so good, right? It's like
They're
that's
really
it's like a
low
part of
lows.
it. There were some low
I mean,
lows.
that's
man.
life, dude.
And that's life, brother.
That's the cool thing about the whole thing. It's like life encapsulated in like this thing.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Which is one of the coolest things I've found with the sport and just being so immersed in it is there's so many lessons you can take from it that you can kind of apply, or just lessons that are parallel to your everyday life.
Yeah.
You know, and if you can kind of pay attention to those, and sometimes it can really help you in the long run, I think.
I agree 100%. I've heard so many life analogies tied to fly fishing from like in skiff talks, like talking on the skiff.
And I think that, you know, we talked about this briefly too, I think that night. The more you fish, the less it is about the fish. The more you go out there and the more experiences that you have, the places that you travel to and the people you meet, it becomes less. Every single time you go out there, every time you go out to a river, every time we hit a flat, it's less and less about the fish. The fish are just a cherry on top. Like, it's so awesome to catch a fish.
It's the excuse we make for going out there in the first place. It's the thing that supposedly that we're out there for, but it's so much more.
Yeah, and honestly, you want to be good at you want to be a good caster, you want to be a good fly tie, you want to be able to catch fish, and that 100%. You know, we love catching fish, and that's ultimately why we got into it. Ultimately, that's probably why everyone gets into it, is for the fish. Like that first time you go fishing, first time you go fly fishing, whatever it is, it's 100% about the fish. Nothing else matters. It's about the fish I catch. That's all there is to it. But the more you do it, the more people you meet, the more experience that you have, the places that you travel, it's less and less about the fish and more about the experience. And that's what you walk away with. Yes, will we remember those fish that we caught? 1,000%. But we will never forget about the trek, the camping, all those exterior things that we got to experience before we even got a fish to hand. And I think that's, you know, there's something to really be said about that. You know,
for sure.
Yeah, that's it. And that's what's fun about documenting it all. You know, being able to, it makes it like it's a part of the process, right? The whole thing, and it almost adds just another element to the whole trip. The experience.
Yeah, I've filmed some stuff before, but it was interesting with Junior. Yeah, Junior and I have done some stuff before. He's done some cool filming, but I've never filmed as much as we did this time. And it was really interesting to like see that extra element added into it. It was to that level. To the level that you take it, which is incredible. Yeah.
And it's something to be like, you coming in and fishing with us and filming with us. You'll see stuff that we won't see. Like, you'll see stuff that I won't see. Like, I might not think is cool or is interesting. You see it as a trout guy or someone living out west. Like, man, this is really interesting. This sound is really interesting. You know, how this creek is contoured is really interesting. I want to get a drone shot of this. This is pretty cool. Where we kind of take it for granted because it's something that is part of our lives almost every single day. You see it from almost through a different lens, and it kind of helps me out as a videographer or photographer, because I'm like, wow, he finds it, like, I look past that every single day. Like, it's something I don't even think about. And something that we take advantage of, but you see it and you're like, man, this is pretty cool. We can implement this into the story. And I think that seeing it through that is refreshing for me as a person who spends time behind a camera. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, there is things, I can incorporate that a little bit more, or, it's something that I might just have been looking over all this time. It's actually pretty interesting to just someone who's outside of this little spectrum, right? Or maybe doesn't know as much about saltwater fly fishing, maybe I can start implementing that. And it was really cool to see that as well.
Mm-hmm. It's fun to, like, as just from a filmmaker and like an artistic standpoint, going into something new, like a new location always is so exciting, because it's like new sights, new sounds, new lighting, new personalities that I'm trying to capture. And it's really, really exciting. And I think it's the same with, like you're saying, for fishing. If you're just going out and fishing and it's highs all day and you're always catching fish, if I were to go out and just make the same videos every single time, that would kind of wear on me.
It'd burn you out. Yeah,
and I think it fuels my creativity to see somewhere new and to be in a new spot and like chase a new fish or whatever it is.
Well,
So-
that's one of the things that I run off of being out there nearly every day is that I get to fish with people, most of whom they don't get to spend either much time or it's their first time out there. And it's their energy for all that new stuff, like the dolphins, the birds, and it keeps it at the forefront because they're always pointing it out and talking about it and want to ask me about those things. And so it's always like, it keeps it up at the surface, like, because it's new to them and I get to feed off that energy of them experiencing it probably for the first time. Being in the marsh, like taking you out there, like there's so many things that you hadn't seen that you saw on this trip, and it's getting to like share that experience with you. It keeps it new, even though I'm out there a ridiculous amount of time.
No, that's super cool.
Yeah. So I love feeding off that energy, for sure.
I think that makes for a good like fishing trip too. You got to have good energy with the crew. Like you got to have,
it's fun.
you know, if someone's pouting, if someone's having a bad attitude, and you know, that's going to bring the whole group down. But I feel like this whole trip, we all kept our cool for the most part, and
Sand fleas dug in there a little bit, but
dug in. But that, you know, we pushed through, and I think that's like we eventually got rewarded.
I should say the sand fleas aren't always that bad.
I think,
They were exceptionally bad this time around.
Yeah, they knew I was coming.
Yeah, they heard you were coming. They probably, when you're gone, they'll be fine again.
Yeah,
I think like great people can trump poor fishing. Like on a fishing trip,
100%.
like great people and poor. That'll still make for a good trip. I've been on trips where it's great fishing, people not so much, and it almost brings down that experience. There's something to be said about, you know, like that camaraderie with good people, where that fishing doesn't have to be lights out. And then when it is, it's like, man, it comes full circle. You know what I mean?
I would put more consideration into the people that I go on a trip with than into the place I'm going. 100%.
hot take.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like that.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah, just throw that. I mean, I'll
Bumper
put
sticker.
I'll tie that in with my dolphin stuff.
Yeah. Dolphin merch. Yeah. Throw that one in your back pocket, boys and girls.
No, 100%. Because I mean, this is something we've talked about too over the weekend. Is, you know, you can only control what you can control. You can control your experience. You can't control fish eat. You know, you can do your
That's
best.
what-
You
yeah.
can,
Yeah.
you know, you control the controllables. But at the end of the day, that fish is either going to eat or it's not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but what you can change, or what you can have an effect on, is that experience, right?
Well, and that's soaking in all the surroundings, not being so focused on the fishing that you forget about, you know, the birds that are out there, the environment that you're in, just soak in the full experience. And maybe if you have the opportunity to take it to the next level and spend a night or two out camping, or like go immerse yourself even deeper, you can peel, like, this fishing thing can be so much deeper than just, and do that all with good friends. And this fishing thing can be so much more than just like, how many fish did you catch? Everybody wants to know, how many fish did you catch? Like, whatever. Like, it's not, sure, some, you know, whatever.
15, but it doesn't matter.
Like, it doesn't, like, that's not like, did you have fun?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what it should, like, hey, did you have fun out there?
Or did you
Yeah,
enjoy
we had
the
fun.
experience?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's- yeah.
Did you
Like,
all
did you
have fun?
enjoy
Like,
the
everybody wants to know how many,
experience?
like, as if the number of fish that you caught,
Yeah.
it's directly correlate. I've had some horrible trips where we caught a ton of fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Like, not really. It's rare that would happen, but in theory, that could happen.
Mhm.
You could have horrible fish.
Yeah.
It's so much more than the fishing.
But I think it
Than
also,
the fish themselves.
it's like a testament to, you know, when you find that crew or those guys you fish with, like this weekend, like you can tell you guys truly have that passion.
We've
for
spent
it.
way too much time on the boat together.
Yeah.
We're like a married couple. We're like a married couple.
Yeah. But you know, it's obviously genuine. Like you're so freaking stoked, you know, and some
Yeah.
people just aren't. And that's fine.
What would you say, like, your intrigue is into saltwater fly fishing? Because you've spent so much time, you know, trout and out west, stuff like that. But what, like,
Why
draws
would
you
wanna
to
come
the
all
intrigue?
the way out here?
Yeah, it's a little South Carolina in our little corner, or just saltwater in general. Like, what you know, what's that?
The biggest thing, I've always been really intrigued with just like sight fishing in general. Trout fishing, if you're sight fishing for a rising brown trout, or if you're, you know, sight fishing for, or streamer fishing especially, you know, when like
Yeah.
bass, smallmouth bass comes out of the logs and you see him chasing it, takes your fly. So I think the sight fishing aspect is huge. And then, like you're saying, and this didn't really register until a couple times until I finally caught a fish, but I love that grind, that up and down. right? So it sucks. You're like, this is terrible. I can't do anything right. And then you get that one shot and it connects. And it's like, it is so hard to explain, but you just know it when you do it. Like, it's the coolest feeling ever, the most rewarding feeling that I've found with fishing. So I would say those two things are the biggest.
Such a roller coaster of emotions.
It's a roller coaster.
Yeah, it's just a roller
You
coaster
mentioned
of
when we
emotions.
were out there, and we've already touched on that when we've been talking, but like the environment that you're in.
Yes.
Wild. Like the amount of life.
Yeah, the amount of life and how quiet it is. That was what was really interesting is I'm used to being on a river where you are constantly hearing that, sound, right? Like of the river the whole time. But in the marsh, I mean, it's a lot of it is auditory. What is it? Hearing.
Just like nature, like that
The
sound,
birds, the
like
oysters,
but you're hearing all this stuff. But then also it's you're scanning, looking for fish, and you might hear it, right? You might
Yeah.
oh,
you
shoot, there
literally
it is.
hear the fish sometimes.
You hear the
yeah.
fish, throw his tail up and start feeding. So that's really cool. It's like all your senses.
literally all your senses.
I would say another thing that also stood out to me is you have to be 100% there.
Oh yeah.
And you have to be 100% present in order for you to catch that fish.
1000%.
Because like you have to be paying attention, you have to be listening, right, to Rob or whoever's pulling behind you, communicating with where's the fish. Oh, 50, 40 yards. Oh, 30 yards. All right, 11 o'clock. And so I love that communication and just being so into it. And you just like forget about everything else.
Everything.
Yeah.
I don't think about
Anything.
You literally, it's like
anything else.
blinders. It's like as soon as you're on the pointy end of that boat, when you're on that bow looking for fish, everything's up. Like there's no outside going on. It's just you and that fish, or you trying to completely in nature trying to find that fish on that flat. And you're right, you can't really think of anything else. Like, and as soon as you start doing it, you miss that fish, or you don't see that fish, or you mess up that cast, or you're 1000%. You have to be completely present. And if as soon as you start drifting away, that's when things start to.
That's when the fish always, they know the second that your attention's distracted, because that's when
they show up.
They're like, hey,
Yeah.
oh, I wasn't ready.
they're setting their
Always
cameras
ready,
up.
never ready.
Oh, they're not. Yeah. Oh, literally. I'm like, guys, the fish are gonna be showing up anymore. You guys are like setting up cameras, dudes. There's a tail behind us.
Oh my god, grab the rod. True story. Actually.
Are you speaking
Yeah.
from experience, Captain Rob?
Saw it happen.
They know, dude. They just know.
That's pretty funny.
One of the things that was really fun for me though was having you on board for the trip and having another filmer who, like I was saying this earlier, but we almost can we can speak the same language, right?
It was like French sometimes. Listen to y'all talk.
It was in French.
Color grading and all the others. And what's the sound thing called?
The audio device,
Yeah.
the sound recorder, like stereo mic.
But you had
Rob, this
an
thing
acronym
records
for it.
audio.
But you had an acronym for it.
Did
or
I have an
something for it.
acronym?
And there were acronyms y'all were dropping. I was wearing this thing, and I don't even
Lav
know what-
mic?
The lav mic.
lav
mic.
I was like,
Lavalier,
yeah, lavalier. Yep.
I learned a lot. I also learned a lot. It's fun to learn because by no means do I ever see myself taking it to the level that you guys are going with any of this stuff.
Well, you do
Even
have
though I am viral on dolphins.
You do have the quickest growing
apparently.
Instagram right now. So.
We should be taking notes from
It's
you.
still cool. Like, I have dabbled in photography and stuff before, and I carry a drone. I carry a camera with me, so it's cool to learn from you guys. Because I like, as much as I can, I do like to capture some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be
Yeah, but it was
like
really
some
cool to learn.
some
from you guys.
seasoned vet or some pro to like enjoy it and want to get better at it. Like,
And I think a lot of people should.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're outdoors, capture it. Don't let that take away from your experience. But like, capture some things, share some pictures. Who knows? Maybe you'll capture a dolphin doing something crazy and go viral.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But what I was leading into is how we first connected was your TikTok stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember shout out to Clayton, our intern. He
Go Tigers.
actually recommended me to check you out, and I was like, this is so sick. Like, there's guys that make really good red fishing stuff, but your stuff was so sick, and it was down here in South Carolina. I was like, oh my god, you're so close.
Yeah.
I
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's how we first connected, right? Like,
Yeah,
reached out-
honestly, yeah. I was. I think that when I guess you'd reached out to me. I was at Zach's wedding, And I think I brought it up to you.
You
Like,
did.
we were
You
literally
like
in the
these
middle of a
models.
wedding.
I was like, who are they?
I was like, yeah. I was like, whoa, who? I'm like, it's only like the biggest fly
Mild
fishing
what?
on YouTube. It's only like the biggest fly fishing people on YouTube. So you have some stuff you need to catch up on. But
I've been fishing too much.
yeah. And then so I think we had chatted a little bit. Then like initially we made that a pretty quick turnaround. Like I think a couple weeks later, you and Bryant were literally on a trip down here to fish. And then I think honestly we kind of hit it all. Like it felt like we all have similar interests, right? You know, me and you enjoy fly fishing and video, which is something that, you know, there's not a ton of people doing. So I think that we could connect on that. And then obviously, you know, being able to bring you into our backyard, show you, you know, this is kind of what it looks like for us, and, you know, let you and Brian experience it. And then from there, I think, you know, the main, like, what we're really known for is that flood, you know, that flood tide fishing, those tailing redfish. So I think within the first 5-10 minutes, we're like, we got to get you down here on a flood. Like we knew that we were going to get along and we were going to kind of click. We're like, all right, we got to make this happen come flood tide season. And then, yeah, we worked on some logistics and then, yeah, got you down here. So,
Yeah, which was sweet.
and it's just so cool to have someone that, you know, is, I guess, French to Rob, but to be able to communicate and talk to, you know, someone who's in fly fishing in the outdoor space and filming, and be able to have a conversation and bounce ideas and, hey, you know, how does this look from this angle? Man, that's great. I love the lighting here. This lighting looks very unique, very original. This would be a great opening shot. This would be a good, you know, closing shot. Or this really sets the perspective of what we're trying to do, or helps out with the story trying to be told. And it's just really good to have that communication, especially on a skiff where it's typically, you know, just me and Rob. And, you know, we film what we can film and do what we can do, but having that third person and also having a different perspective was incredible, man. I know I learned a lot over the weekend. And it was just, yeah, it was awesome having you on the skiff and being able to shoot some stuff with you.
Yeah, no, dude, likewise. Being able to just be like, oh, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
Or, hey, should we shoot on this lens or this lens? Like, simple things like that.
Yeah.
Y'all were getting after it on all the. That was good.
Yeah,
Fun
I
to
thought
watch.
it was a good, it was a good teamwork. And
There's a lot of moving around, Rob, so we're sorry if we were making a lot of noise.
I
I'm
don't
not
know if you-
always ready, but we were trying our best, man.
there was like camera gear all over the boat, dude. It was a mess. Like,
I was like, all right, it's all right, it's all right.
yeah, yeah.
How much money?
Rob's looking down.
How much money worth of camera gear do you
I
think we
thought
had on
about
that skiff, dude?
I did think
I don't
about
wanna
that
know.
at one point, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of camera gear.
Dude, yeah.
People are looking at us at the dock like, what in the world?
What are they doing? I have like 4 cameras.
It
I'm
was
like,
fun though, because what you were able to capture doing that, like what y'all captured this weekend, was awesome. That was so cool.
Yeah, I was.
And then,
so
like,
stoked.
one really interesting point is, like, and me and you have talked about this even pre this trip, is, you know, you do a great job of telling a story, a long form 30-minute, 45-minute long story, which is something that, you know, as a filmmaker, and I know you're the same ways, you're always trying to learn ways to be better and to hone your craft. Same thing with fly fishing, same thing with, you know, with anything in life. The more hours you dedicate to it, the more time you put towards it, hopefully the better that you get. And, like, I know that I want to improve on being able to tell a story from beginning to end and giving that story justice, which I think that you do a great job doing.
Thank you.
And being able to see how your brain works behind the lens was really awesome, because I could, from the outside looking in, I could see how the story was going to play out. And seeing that and learning from that is, I mean, it's
cool to
extremely,
watch.
yeah, it's cool to watch, and it's extremely beneficial for me. And hopefully, you know, you might have picked up something from me. Hey, you know, short form, whatever it is. But I know that benefited me enormously. You know, because I think being able to tell a story is extremely important behind the lens.
Yeah, no,
ultimately.
I appreciate that. On the flip side, I would say, one, how did you get into TikTok, and then and like short form stuff?
Yeah.
And then, like, 2, how are you able, like, how have you been able to tell stories in such a short form? Because that's something I really want to improve on. I really want to figure out the TikTok and the reels and like short form stuff, because I feel like it's huge right now. It is huge.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's tough. I think, like, it's a funny story how I actually got into TikTok initially. It was actually, I had a bet with my niece. She, you know, this is when TikTok was all funny dances and funny music, and it was literally all like 15, 16-year-old kids. And I think my niece had a video that kind of went viral. and she was telling everyone she was TikTok famous, like going around to like Thanksgiving, showing the whole family, look, Mom and Dad, I'm TikTok famous. Look, Uncle Junior, I'm TikTok famous. And me being the competitive uncle I am, I was like, I bet you I could get a video with more views if you give me a month, or give me, I was like some certain time frame. And I will only do fishing stuff, like boring fly fishing stuff. And she's like, oh, you'll never do this fly fishing. No one's ever going to watch that. I was like, well, I bet you I don't have to do any stupid dances with any music. And so I was like, what? I downloaded it like at that family dinner and just kind of started posting on it. I've always been really intrigued on what keeps attention. And I realized what keeps my attention. And it's either one, an incredible story, right? The why. Something like what you do, Scotty. Like I can be fully in from minute 1 to minute 45 because you do such a great job telling that story. Or these, quick cuts, still giving context to what's going on and how can I tell this story in the shortest time possible without having to, without having to make a clip too long or try to, I'd rather do that than try to fabricate a story into something way more longer than it needs to be. And then from there, I just, I was kind of plugging and playing with clips and stuff like that. And I kind of found out what kind of worked for me that I was like, how can I, if it was a flood tide trip, how can I tell this story in the shortest time possible? And I'm still, it's something I still try to fine tune every single day. By any means, I don't have any of it figured out. I'm constantly trying to learn and better that craft, just like I am trying to better my craft as a fly angler. But yeah, honestly, I tried to, what would I want to watch? And really molded it around that. Quick cuts, cool shots. Honestly, and it's, I like stoke. Like saltwater fishing is about stoke.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people from the outside looking in, they're like, oh, like, are they really that excited when they catch a fish? Does Rob really make that? Does Junior really yell like that when he catches a fish?
Yes.
Yes. 1,000. Yeah, Scotty's a witness. Like 1,000 times yes. And I think that originality and that like authenticity, it like illuminates. Like people could realize that these guys are doing it because they actually love. Like they love it. They're not doing it because the camera's on. They, if there was no cameras on that skiff, we'd still hoot and holler. We'd still yell and get hyped and make rally, but we would do all that same stuff. The only difference is there's a camera being, we're being recorded. And I think people see that. People can see through the fabrication and see, who's being original, who really loves it, who's being authentic. And I think that's really what, like, there's no I was telling you this today, there's no secret, it has to be this amount of time. It has to include these clips. It's just consistency and fine tuning it. Every video I put out, I want my next video to be better. That's like as simple as I can do it. How can I make my next video better? In let's say it's a 12-second clip. How can I make the next 12-second clip even better? How can I tell even more of the story in this 12 seconds? And I try to build around that. And like I said, I'm still fine tuning it. Nothing's, I don't have it completely figured out. But yeah, it's been pretty crazy. Yeah, TikTok's a pretty wild place.
It's wild, and I think there's been a lot of hesitancy, I think, by a lot of people to get into it. I definitely had that for a while, and I eventually was just like, what am I doing? Why am I not on this? Like this is, like, this is really big, and people are on it. It's not just a bunch of girls dancing.
It's not. No, it's not. 100% not.
So why do you think people have a hesitancy to get onto the platform, especially in the fly fishing and outdoor world?
That's a good question. I think there is a bit of a, that's for kids kind of outlook on it. I do see there's nothing but, like you said, there's nothing but 15-year-old kids dancing to funny music or doing funny memes or, all these things, not fly fishing, not outdoor. I think that's one of the aspects of it. I think that there's a really weird relationship between fly fishing and social media. I think that's probably the biggest, is it's such a weird relationship between those two. You have people that have completely accepted it and have seen the benefits and how it can positively impact the fly fishing community. And then I think that there's still a lot of people that absolutely hate it and, will talk down on it and say that it's ruining fly fishing. So I think it really depends on where you stand in those two demographics. I think that the people who have accepted it and can see how this can positively influence the next generation of fly anglers are on it or like to be on it. And then I think that other side doesn't. And I think that's that's the loudest crowd that you're hearing.
It's like the mindset of them.
Yeah, I think it's the mindset. 100%. I think it's the mindset. But there's something to be said as well as with those younger kids. And this is why initially it was, like I said, it was a joke, kind of a joke. It really was. Or like, I'm going to prove that I can get more views than my niece. But ultimately when it started growing, I realized just based on like how fast it was growing, the comments on the videos, I kind of realized that this younger generation of fly anglers don't really have anyone, Then I started thinking about like when I was that young, I didn't have anyone, and this was, there wasn't a lot of fly fishing stuff even on YouTube at this time. It was people that you knew in this small circle, in this small corner of South Carolina, which is a handful of people at that time, not even. So, a lot of these kids were asking simple questions that to me was, and to any of us or people who with any experience would be, it's just, subconscious answer. But I realized that these young kids were yearning for knowledge and wanted to get into it. And that barrier of entry can be really daunting into fly fishing, especially at a 15-year-old kid, 16-year-old kid. It could be really tough. Especially, if you didn't have a grandparent or dad who fly fish, or, there's a lot of places that there's not a fly shop between, 150 miles away from them. And they see this person on TikTok that they can see, and relate to, and maybe have some kind of, can, I guess, correlate with, I guess. I mean,
have like almost a relationship.
Relationship with.
Yeah.
And I think that in that beginning, I was answering a lot of questions, helping a lot of the kids out, because I was like, man, I wish ultimately at that age, I wish I had someone that I could kind of talk to and be like, how do I do this? What do I do for this and that? And from that moment on, it just kind of took fire, man. It kind of snowballed, and I was enjoying it because and I still enjoy it because it gives me a sense of purpose. Not that I know everything, and not that I have all the answers to every question that's asked to me, or if anything in fly fishing is black and white, because it's not. It's like all gray area. But if I can feel like I'm giving back and helping the kids out, and if one of the 150 kids get into it and they stick with it, and that one person has a positive influence on another kid and gets his son into it, and it's a snowball effect, and then it's 1,000% worth it. All the videos, all the time editing, all the time shooting, all the answered questions, because if you're not doing something that you're passionate about, with purpose behind it, then why are we doing it? And it's a good feeling that they've entrusted, they trust me to give them good advice or give them answers to their questions. So that's a good feeling as well. And as long as I can keep helping those kids out and get more people into a sport and be inclusive rather than exclusive.
Well, there's a lot of shade being thrown toward a lot of people. People like to throw shade towards the younger generation trying to get into this, like, oh, they don't know what they're doing, or they're taking up spots, or whatever. But if nobody's putting a positive influence out there, and kind of steering them and hey, here's what you want to be doing, how are they going to learn? Who are they going to learn from?
Yeah, I think that and with I think with that group of people that won't accept social media, we would just say social media or TikTok, Instagram, because it's probably the same people that are barking about Instagram, same people probably barking about TikTok. But I think that they're just doing a disjustice to fly fishing in general, because, let's just say that percentage of people who haven't accepted it, they're the ones saying, well, they're the ones saying that those kids are fishing my spot. Those kids are fishing my area. Or these kids are doing it all the wrong way. We used to never. If the kids have no one to, if they have no one to learn from, and just have an idea what a positive, how the right way to do something, the right way to do things, then how are they supposed to learn? How are they supposed to know if no one teaches them? So how I see it is, and in the beginning, I fought with it a lot, and Scott, you probably did the same thing in the beginning, probably with YouTube, even with Instagram. It's this ongoing battle. It's like, am I helping the sport out or am I not? And I've had many conversations with myself about it, but at the end of the day, if you're just, like I said, if you're just showing one person how to do things the right way, then it's all worth it. And I think you probably can talk on it too.
I was going to say, for the longest time, I almost felt like bad that I was, or there's almost a bit of guilt, right? It's like, should I be filming or should I be, is this taking away from the experience? Is this is this not adding anything? I think guilt is the thing. I just felt like this guilt for the longest time, but I finally accepted it because I think, yes, there are people and there's a lot of negativity and toxicity on social media, right? And I think it's a lot of people that don't like change, and they don't like seeing people chase something that, like a dream. They chase their dreams or chase something that they want to get after. And I think with what I'm doing and what you're doing, and even with guiding, like if we can make, like you're saying, a positive impact on one person, 2 people, however many people it is, it's
all worth it.
That's gonna and that's gonna help the next generation. And I think, like you're saying, a lot of people don't have faith in the next generation of fly fishermen, but I think their ability to access so much, hopefully positive content and inspiring content will really give them, like, put them in a good direction going forward.
I think either way, doesn't matter if I hate TikTok, hate social media, or if I love it. It's happening either way.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not going anywhere.
It ain't going anywhere.
And that's the thing. I think people don't realize is they might hate on it, but like they're not using it, so they don't know the benefits.
We've talked about that too. If it's not you, if somebody's not out there doing a positive thing, there's plenty of people out there that are doing
not doing it the best way. Yeah.
Like, who better than, if you're doing it the right way, who better than you to get out there and try to influence things and try to help things steer, because the kids are there and the stuff's not going, the social media is not going anywhere. So,
and it's sad because a lot of the people who don't want to probably have a lot of influence and can really have a
knowledge,
a lot of influence, a lot of knowledge, and can distribute that knowledge and that influence to a lot of different people that could really positively impact fly fishing. I think it's all, like I said, with the whole gatekeeping thing, I think that, there's we're in this weird, generation of fly fishing where, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was, you either knew someone, like one person who got you in it, right? Like a grandpa or something. We're in this new generation where there's not really that, but those people want to learn. And even if
we call it fly curious.
Yeah, fly curious. I like that. And even if like that barrier of entry is hard to get in, at least we're making it one step easier for them. And if, like you said, if we do that for one person, that snowballs, then it's all worth it. All that time behind it, because if not, like you said, if not, who are they going to turn to? And if there's no one, then they're going to leave the sport. And then, or not ever enter the sport. And there's these places that we love so much and that we want to conserve, these, all these crazy international places, or even in our backyard or your favorite home stretch or river. If no one knows about them and no one is able to enjoy them, how are they going to get protected? And I think that's a conversation to be had too. You think it's ruining these places, but if they don't know about it, how can they protect it? And I think that's a whole conversation to be said, and questions that those people need to ask themselves. Ultimately,
is it really spot burning? I don't think it is. I think a lot of times it's getting people interested in a place, and then when you get interested in a place and you go travel to a place, you care about that place and you want to protect it. And so maybe there's a couple more boats, maybe there's a couple more people on the river here and there.
I mean, you could take the spot burning, you could take that too far where you're literally specific spot, but that's not at all. That's not at all what we're talking about. A general area.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if we're like, hey, guess what? In this video, we are fishing at this pin linked below.
Yeah.
No, but the general area, like the low country, or like there's so places that need to be protected. Yeah. Like putting a spotlight on that and like, hey, these are good places, like places you need to experience.
These are places that, I want my kids to experience. I want my grandkids to experience.
For sure.
And I want their friends to experience. And ultimately that's going to be really one of the only ways that we're going to be able to protect some of these places. A lot of the places, a lot of these fly fishing places, destinations, it's really all they got. It's fly fishing or outdoor kind of, outdoor activities. And if they don't know about them, how can they protect them? How can they, how can we keep them for the next generation? And like you said, you can go over the top with it. There's ways that, just with anything, there's right ways and wrong ways to do things. But I think the less amount of people is detrimental because it's already pretty much, it's already a small, it's a small group of people. It's a small world, really. And the fly fishing community isn't that big. It's not that expansive. And at least that those kids that are on those spots, at least hopefully they've taken something away from you, Scotty, or something from me, or something from you, Rob, the right way to do things. If they're on that flat first, what I mean? Or just these little things that you wouldn't know unless someone told them or they learned it. And if those are the ones that are on those flats or at your favorite stretch of river, at least they're doing things the right way, right?
Yeah, taking care of the fish.
Taking care of the fish, taking care of the area. Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. So when it comes to short form, I'd love to talk about this a little more because this is something I was saying, I really want to kind of get dialed in this year. But was there something that clicked when you started seeing things like grow, or what's been the draw to the short form, and then what clicked first, I guess?
Honestly, I think it was like this is gonna probably not sound great, but I just like this, like I said, the stoke behind it. Is that what you mean, or more technically?
I guess a little bit of both. One, maybe what was the most exciting for you, but really, what was there something in the content that you're putting out that you were like, oh, people are really connected to this, or was it just kind of like a gradual growth?
Yeah, I think I realized that the things that we were taking for granted, like when we'd go out in a flood and see tailing fish, yeah, we got excited. When we caught a fish, we'd be through the roof. But a lot of people don't get to experience it. A lot of people are in cities or up north or out west, and we're in this little small corner of the United States, and maybe they've always wanted that demographic has always wanted to see that or experience a flood tide, a day on a flood tide, and I think that ultimately that me making that experience as short form as I can with more meat than potatoes, kind of, right? Like more the climax moments than all the fillers, and try to fabricate this, try to make this crazy story up behind a 4-hour flood, right? And I think that's what it was. And going on TikTok at that time, there was really when I first downloaded it and I had it for the first probably 6 months, I didn't see any other fly fishing pop up on my For You page or anything like that. I was really the only person that I saw doing saltwater fly fishing stuff. And I think that was probably just a factor, honestly, consistency, me posting, at a consistent basis. And there wasn't a lot of content on there with fly fishing. And, obviously I put in a lot of the exciting parts of a trip, and, there's a lot of other things that are going on. And I think that obviously people just like that as well. People like seeing tailing fish. Who does? I mean, do you put a tailing fish anywhere? I'm watching it. Someone hooking up to feeding a fish that they can see, and laying out a great cast and landing that fish, and seeing the genuine excitement and putting that in 9 seconds. And I think that that's attracted a lot of people. And at the end of the day, it's short form. Those people are, they're only going to be on that video for 10 seconds or less. So how can in that 10 seconds make the most impact in that 10 seconds? And, they're not going to sit around and watch a 30-minute video on TikTok. They're going to go to Scotty's, YouTube channel to watch that.
Well, because the platform itself is not.
Yeah, it's not built for that.
You're not natively going to watch a 30-minute video on TikTok.
No,
right?
Yeah, exactly. No,
so
100%.
I feel like some of the TikToks and stuff I've posted have been longer, 45 seconds to a minute. Do you find that those shorter kind of bite-sized ones is that like a... Yeah, I mean, I guess with people's attention span, you want to kind of get right into the juice.
The bang, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's how I see it. I'm like, what's gonna grab the attention? you know, what, like those first 3 seconds are so important, right? That really ultimately decides on if someone's going to really stick on that video or not, or stay on that video. And then after that 3 seconds, you know, obviously filling in the rest from there. But I think that, like you said, the platform really isn't built for super long form. And that's something that I think that I understand short, you know, the short form stuff. And that's why I'm trying to transition to, like you said, kind of a little bit longer stuff, being able to tell the story a little bit better. But I think that's what, honestly, you know, people like the excitement. And I think a lot of times when people think of fly fishing, they just think of some grandpa on the river with a basket
Fishing for trout.
or like Brad Pitt, you know what I mean? Like that's what they think fly fishing is. And a lot of times people, you'd be so surprised, people who will comment on videos be like, I've never even seen someone fly fishing before. This is the first time I've ever seen someone fly fishing. You know, it's not like you can flick on the TV and see it, you know what I mean, on some random ESPN or, it's on live television or anything. So I think a lot of people just haven't seen it, haven't experienced it, and don't understand it. And they see these crazy guys with, you know, water up to their shins in what looks like a flooded field of grass trying to catch a fish. There's like something tailing in the water. I remember one of the first clips that I posted. This is mind blowing. One of the first clips that I posted that really blew up was a group of tailing fish, and I'd say 50% of the comments on that video were like, "Are these sharks?" Yeah, literally. This is probably about 2 years ago on it. There's a group of tailing fish on a flood tide. A couple fish tailing. Like, what are these sharks doing?
Oh my god!
Then like people are like, "Where's the cast net? Grab the cast net!" I was like, "Why haven't you thrown a cast net on these things?" Like just the craziest stuff. But that kind of, there's something to be said. Like people don't see it. People don't understand what it is. And I think there's a genuine curiosity with it. Like it's something like, wow, this isn't something different. You see every single day. Yeah, it's
like from the outside, fly fishing is like some exotic looking wizardry.
Yeah, I think I had a comment once. It was like
big fish.
I literally had a comment on one of the videos like, I thought fly fishing was a conspiracy theory. Like, literally, I have that. I need to find. I screenshotted it,
dude. That's one to hold on to.
That needs to go in a sticker. Fly fishing is a conspiracy.
Yeah,
theory.
I literally have that comment somewhere on, and I screenshotted it. It was like, I thought fly fishing was a conspiracy theory.
That's
like,
good.
Dude, that's amazing.
You'd never told me that.
It's pretty funny. But I think, ultimately that's what it is, and I'm hoping to transition it into more. You know, I love the short form stuff because I get excited. I like to post. I like to post a video that I get excited about. Right? Like, damn, if I watch this video, I'm like, where's my fly fishing gear at? Where's my stuff at? I want to go. Like, that's what I'm trying to really bring. And does it look cool or is it cool? Maybe. But it's because we genuinely love it, and there's, like I said, there's authenticity behind it, and we're so passionate about it. And it's something that we care about, and I think that's really what it boils down to. You can't fake the stoke, dude. Can't do it. Can't fake the stoke.
Well, when did you guys? Y'all told me this at some point, but when did you guys start hanging out, fishing, and like? Because were you already filming in that point, or then did you start filming? Like, when did that relationship start?
Oh,
what was that? 2 years ago? 3 years ago now.
3 years
ago because I had that other boat.
Grabbing freezer beers. Hold on.
Oh yeah,
keep going.
That's a great idea.
So 3 years ago, so we had a buddy who knew. We had a mutual friend.
Yeah.
Who was like, hey,
appreciate that, man.
It ended up being two, but his boat, our buddy's boat, my boat, and then our buddy, and there was an odd man. There was another guy coming who I'd never met before, and that dude, Junior, got thrown on my boat, and I was like, oh, okay. Because
I think this is what I think happened.
I'm pretty
right,
careful
so
about who
we
I
meet.
just
We meet at
randomly fish with.
so we meet at my buddy Zach's house, and I've been fishing with Zach at this point for a little while. Zach is a Marine, and he was like, hey, my brother's coming into town. And
was it his brother?
Yeah, it was his brother. He said, my brother's coming into town, and we want to hit this flood. He had a smaller skiff, and he was like, I'm going to invite my buddy Rob, and maybe y'all can fish together. At this point, I had never met Rob. So I said, okay, yeah, that sounds good. So we show up at his house. Rob pulls up. And I don't know if Rob knew I could pole or not, which is, like, you don't want to be pulling some dude all day that you don't even know. And so I think I think Zach had asked him, like, or Rob was like,
At
like
that
subconsciously
time,
was like, can he pull?
I was just starting to guide or just getting into guiding at the time.
Yeah, I don't even know if you've guided yet.
I was working on
yeah,
I was
you
getting
were
my captain's
so
license
early,
at that time. Yeah.
And so basically they threw me on his boat. So the brothers fished together. They threw me on Rob's boat on a flood.
It was icy.
And that was the first time we fished together. And I think I pulled first to prove it to him that, hey, I can actually pull. I can, you're not just pulling some kid around.
I have a horrible memory, so I don't remember.
And
I remember the fish that we caught together.
Yeah,
which I pointed out today because we actually fished in that area today.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that's where Junior and I caught our first fish together.
Yep, and then I remember like it was yesterday. You caught your fish. We were pretty obviously
Did I catch
excited.
a fish that trip?
You did.
Oh,
I
don't
still have
even
a photo.
remember that fish. I just remember the fish that Junior caught.
And then so then I get onto the pointy end, and then he pulls me onto a fish. So I think we stuck 2 that day on our first little fishing adventure together, and we've been friends ever since. And I probably have hung out with him more in the last 2 years than anybody. We spent a lot of time together. And it's an awesome friendship, and I think that it's mutually reciprocated. Where we both love fly fishing, we love the area, and if we can film and capture our experiences, it kind of just puts a cherry on top.
Helps me out putting my name out there a little bit more. Helps Junior out getting him on the skiff, and we go straight to the fish most of the time. It's just a cool kind of. It's just worked out well for both of us.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. What did you think about the filming and like capturing, the fishing aspect, or like just adding the film?
The funny thing is, when I first met Junior, I was actually playing with the camera more than I find myself playing with it now. Now I find myself so focused on. I still have the camera, I still have the drone, whatever. But at that time, I was taking more doing more with photography.
I'd only just bought my first mirrorless.
It wasn't like Junior came on the boat with a camera.
No.
That morphed into something that he was pursuing. And at the same time, like I said, I was getting into guiding and pursuing that new career and going into that. Came to,
I'd done a little bit of stuff on like a mirrorless.
Your question?
I had a camera for a few months, just done some filming, just learning it, doing some video stuff. Nothing serious at all. And I didn't even bring it on the skiff that day. I didn't even bring it. I had it for, like I said, a couple months. And then pre that, I was just, really what's entry level for everyone. Like I had a GoPro, and I just bring it with me on my kayak and fish. And then I finally made that transition into like, you know what? I want to start taking more, photos. And
it was really organic though. Because I remember it basically happened. Like it was very organic. Like it's morphed into. It's funny to look back, me and my career, and Junior with the whole filming thing. Because it's funny to look back when we first met each other. We were both kind of getting started in both those things, and looking back at who we were then, what we thought we knew then, and looking back at it like, wow, I didn't know anything. Like the difference between the angler I am now after spending 3 years straight on the water. I mean, it's a lot of time before that, but like there's a difference when you're on the water nearly every day. And then Junior's been getting after it on the camera, and like it's like, dude,
it's cool seeing the rise. It's cool seeing the rise.
Oh, a different person.
It's really
It's
really cool seeing the growth behind it. Yeah, you're right. It's like
so
we're like
such
kids.
A short period of time, and it feels like it's been forever. Because I can't believe like that much has happened that quickly.
Yeah. Well, I think it's with filming or guiding and fishing, like anything. If you can look back a year ago at your work or where you were at in fishing and be like, damn, like that video sucked, or what was I thinking with that?
Or, man, I know like how to find fish at different places now. Like growth is awesome.
Yeah.
If there's ever not growth, if you're ever at a stagnant point, I don't know. I want to start looking for something else to do.
That's really.
I think what it does is it kind of goes like the whole. And I think Scotty, you're probably the same way as like when the reason I first picked up a GoPro or whatever it was, like I was experiencing things like by myself that I just like wanted to show to my friends. Like I was like, my friends are never gonna believe this happened. Like this did like, you know,
Nature's crazy.
Yeah, nature's just a crazy. Yeah. So ultimately, that was really why is I was capturing these. I was having these experiences, and not like I was like, how can I capture this? Even if it was with a GoPro, right? Even if it was just some, you know, stupid clip or some shitty clip, and it's so crazy to see that was like my step into what it is now. It's such a cool thing to look back. I hate watching old. I won't even watch old videos because it's like as soon as I'm like, you're probably the same way. Yeah. I get done with mine and I'm like, I'm done with them. Like even like a lot of the short ones, I'll just be like, oh, that was cool. Okay,
what was I thinking? Did I really sound like that?
Exactly. But I mean, I bet you're probably like the same way. Straight GoPro. Transitioning what it is now is insane.
I was making trips to the mountains with my cousins to go fly fishing, you know, on our weekends. Like we'd drive 2 hours to the mountains. And it was such a cool experience for us to have together. And I remember just being like, I want to show my parents, or I want to show my friends. Yeah. This is so cool. I want to show people this. And then I think the two have paired really well over the years. You know, they've like the growth. Like I've been learning fly fishing as I've been learning filmmaking this whole time. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And it's
a good feeling.
It's like a sacrifice on both ends, right? Because you sacrifice some fishing time, you know, but then you're also like, I probably wouldn't be here if I wasn't filming and didn't like chase after a career in YouTube and whatnot, which kind of happened organically, right? But I think the two pair really well just because like you're constantly pushing yourself, you're constantly growing, you're constantly trying to capture something new, see it through a new lens, like you're saying.
Yeah. I think that, you know, that video has made me slow everything down, I think it's like I said, it's made me a better flying angler. It's a lot like pulling a skiff. You know, when you're pulling a skiff, you're so aware of everything else going on and you're able to see things happen.
Dude, you learn so much just watching.
You see things in the moment, right? You see these things in the moment, and maybe something that guy in the bow did, maybe not right. You can learn from that. Or right. Yeah, no. Or right. But you can learn from that while you're pulling, right? You learn from these experiences. You learn from these situations. And it's the same thing behind the camera. And I think, Scotty, you could probably talk about that as well, how it's probably made you, you know, a better angler as well. You really have to put on the blind. It's like you have to put on your blinders. And it's just like what you said when you're looking for a fish, right? There's so many comparisons between polling, fishing, and video. Like there's so many things that are intertwined.
Because I think something for me, because there's days that I go out alone scouting, and rather than, again, the focus is just being like, I have to catch that fish. It's amazing when you step back and just try to just watch the fish and just capture like a film or something, or capture a moment, like just sit back and instead of chasing them, see what they do. You learn so much from that experience. Not that I'm not on y'all's level, but like it's fun to just sit back and film it and learn so much just by watching, letting nature do its thing, letting the fish do their thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think to that too, I'm always trying to, like, I'm always asking, or I'm always like, kind of asking questions throughout, right? Like in my head, I'm trying to ask questions to the subjects that I'm filming to try to like get a gauge of what we're doing, why we're doing it. You know, we're moving spots. Okay, why are we moving spots? Right? Like I'm asking questions when I'm filming that I probably wouldn't typically ask if I wasn't filming. And so I think that has definitely helped me because I've learned stuff like just this weekend asking, you know, I'm thinking, okay, my filmmaking brain's like, okay, we're transitioning to a new zone. So we have to communicate that to the audience, right? So I'm asking you, okay, so why are we transitioning, or why are we moving to the spot? You know, whatever, the tide's coming down, blah, 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 right? And so then I'm learning stuff like that as I'm filming, and I'm also looking back on it when I'm editing.
So I'm giving context to the film.
Yeah, you're giving context to the film. But it's also like I'm able to learn.
That's really unique. I honestly, I've never really thought about that.
You're picking our brains. It was good. It was awesome to share that. That information, like talk through those different things.
Yeah, and y'all killed it. Like I think one of my goals always with this type of filmmaking and the types of videos I like to make, I really want it to be, I don't want it to seem like you have to perform, right? I want people to feel comfortable. I want it to be very natural,
Organic.
I want it to just be like I'm asking you and I are having a conversation.
Yeah.
There's no camera on, and so sometimes it's really subtle where I'm holding the camera or whatnot, and so I think this weekend was great because like you guys killed it on the camera and stuff, and
Appreciate it.
Out there having fun.
well, yeah,
Like,
exactly. We're just having fun, but that's
fun.
the best.
Yeah.
That's like the dream, right, for filming because you want to capture those organic, just like fun moments.
We haven't even talked about the flood this morning, which was pretty epic
Yeah.
too. Which is sun was shining.
Well, let's bring this tangent.
Yeah,
back.
I was like, we didn't even.
Back to
we,
the
we
story.
talked. We got so stoked about that last 30-minute window, and then we got some beers flowing, and then we haven't talked about the flood this morning and how epic that
first,
was.
Like,
Yeah, that was this morning.
That was this
first
morning, which
cast.
feels like 3 days ago.
Like we roll up on the flat, and that fish was tailing.
Happy.
I'm like, you guys are still kind of getting ready. I'm like, guys.
Dude,
And
I was still half asleep.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
were trying. I was all
I was still
bubbly
half
trying
asleep,
to get. Hey,
dude.
Junior, wake up, man.
You already drank your coffee, dude.
Dude, I never drank
need a bigger
I
cup of
sipped
coffee.
my coffee. I barely drank my coffee this morning because it literally went straight into like
Yeah.
there's a tail.
Was that the one that fell in the water?
No,
That was the day before, my
So the coffee,
Yeah.
that was this morning.
The coffee fell in the
Yeah, I
water
know
this
it.
morning.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah. Whoa,
Man, we're
whoa,
just
what's
catching
going on?
everything. Sorry about that.
Dude, that fish was tailing and happy. It's like, there's your fish. Get ready, dude. First cast, man.
Was the first cat?
It was like your
cast.
first or second, but early.
It was the same fish.
It was
First or
the
second
first
cast.
fish.
Yeah,
First
I mean,
shot we had
I
of
mean,
the fish.
took all the everything we'd been talking about for the couple of floods.
Spent
before
all
that.
night studying. Spent all
Apparently,
night studying.
like,
Probably
did your
just writing
homework,
notes.
Showed up for the test. Like I'm putting
Aced
it right.
it.
I'm putting that fly right there. I'm gonna pull it. I'm gonna wait.
Oh, don't look at the fish. Got it.
Oh, dude, he was,
Cast. Lead
dude,
the
that
fish. Got it.
That fish saw your fly from. It hadn't like it was at least a foot from the fly. And you got it on film, right? So
Yeah,
it's
we
on
might be able
film.
to get to share this with people at some point. Dude, that fish saw your fly and just like rushed it and crushed it.
He literally got to that fly
Dude,
from
he
where he was
crushed it.
in literally
I
half a
lost my
second.
mind. I lost my
It was
mind.
so sick, dude.
He
the
literally
eat was
attacked it. Like he didn't just
amazing.
eat the fly. He saw that fly and he attacked it. Like he literally saw it, attacked it, beeline.
And that doesn't happen every time,
like
but
that.
when that happens,
compared to what we were seeing the
dude,
day before, right?
that
Like, yeah.
is- I lose. I don't care. I'm just gonna. That's gonna put a smile on my face all day.
Yeah.
Um.
Like compared to what we were seeing the day before, where like it was like kind of like 50-50, where there was some fish that were tailing, and I guess you can say happy, and then there was fish that we were making some really good shots on.
Because you were like, "Am I doing something wrong?" I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
nope, just we talked about things to do better, but like
Ultimately,
you had some
yeah.
good cast. Some fish rejected you the day.
Good
prior.
enough. Good
You
enough
Caught,
to
you caught that
eat.
one that we thought you should have caught. Then you caught that one fish. And then, but dude, those fish this morning were like, we are eating that fly.
Yeah, dude.
We are not. It was, dude, that fish crushed
The
it so
first-
hard.
You're like, yeah, we just get out there
I
and we're
just
like,
couldn't believe it.
man, you know, it's such a nice morning. But oh my
was
god,
really
there's a
nice.
fish. Oh my god, we're on. And then he
And then he
popped off.
popped
right
off.
away.
Everybody's getting like, oh, he caught
Did he
the
pop
fish.
off or did he spit the hook?
He came off the hook.
He spit. They
I-
spit
so
it.
what-
He
for
spit
what-
it?
whatever
remember.
reason.
Yeah, I don't remember what I mean.
When you're fishing, and this is for
The days are all mixed.
When you're fishing in that thick grass, so many things can happen. You know, that fish tries to eat the fly, and your hook. There's a lot going on in there. So for whatever reason, and then all the pressure on the hook when he starts plowing through the grass, because you had him on, and then before that he popped off.
I do remember that was a big fish.
That was a
'cause
big fish.
When I strip set him, it like
It was a nice
usually you
fish.
strip set him and you can kind of pull him a little.
No,
Dude, it
Wasn't
was
not the fish
happening.
we, not the
It was
fish
like-
we catch.
That
I'm
dude.
joking.
Yeah, that dude was.
It just
That fish
stopped.
was going the other way.
yeah. And so I think I lifted my rod a little prematurely, but I mean,
reckless
who knows?
abandon. Yeah.
Who knows?
You know, I mean, it's a fish. You know, ultimately he can do that and come straight towards you, and that he
Who knows?
maybe he crushed it, but that hook isn't all the way in there, and now he's coming towards you. You're trying to get line tight. Like it's so, like I said, there's
See,
so
I
much
think
stuff
this
going
is the
on.
important part is when you have something happen, whether good or bad, reflect on it because you always want to be better for the next fish. Because on the next fish, you were extra careful. I watched. You were extra careful on. We should. Anyways,
2
that
minutes
fish
later.
that fish pops off, and I'm like,
Literally the
Scotty,
next fish.
don't worry about it. I got you another fish. We turn. We go start working towards that fish. Happy as it could be. Again,
Boom.
laid that fly right out there. It was just right in front of him. Pull, pull, pull. Little ticks. There's the conversation. Rewatching the conversation was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you stuck that fish. I'm like, what is going on?
Dude,
How'd that feel, Scotty?
Oh my god.
How'd that feel?
Dude, it just
Put it into words.
It all happened so fast. Like it was, oh my god, oh my god, I lost him. Damn it! And then like right away it was, there's a fish. Oh shit, okay. And then you're back in the. You
Boom.
totally forget about that last fish.
Exactly.
And then then I hooked him. But then
I think that's why it's so hard to like collect all the memories because like you just forget about all this stuff.
So much happens. So much happens.
You're
It's
just
crazy.
so stoked too. It's hard to explain it just in words. You have to watch the video to understand.
That fish took you for a ride.
Dude, I thought I panicked because he took me under that
He said I panicked.
that brush.
Do I keep reeling? Do I?
I didn't know. That's when your coffee fell in, right? When we were trying to.
No, the fish. I backed the boat up. The fish had tunneled through a bunch of thick grass. I backed the boat up, used the push pole to get the fish out of that grass, get your line out of that grass. The fish then ran behind the boat, got in the trim tabs. I'm in there.
Oh, yeah.
Coffee. I had been trying to drink my coffee. It was up on the polling platform above me. It falls off the polling platform since we're all on the same side of the boat now.
That's right.
A boat leans over. It falls off into the water. I'm like, forget that. I thought we were gonna lose that fish because he was not. He was on the opposite side of the boat, all in the trim tabs under the motor. I just started dragging him by the line, dragging him out from under the boat.
And just a pretty fish too. Multiple
Pretty
spots,
fish.
pretty
Such a
fish,
pretty
gets great
fish.
size.
Like, wow, such
Yeah.
a pretty fish. What a
Yeah,
way
it
to
was
start a
awesome.
morning,
Dude,
You
what a
ended up
way.
not needing the coffee because,
Yeah.
dude,
That
we
was
started.
your-
on
And your coffee
fish.
was a little bit salty. Yours had like a salty
Well,
caramel.
fortunately, it was a closed, like it was a
but the
sealed
rim,
thing,
little
so
salt
that-
rim,
it
little
was-
like a margarita.
If I'd have put some caramel on there,
Oh, then we're just
dude, you
next
gotta
level.
pay for that. You gotta pay some good money.
Next
for
level.
That.
That's
It
pretty
was-
cool.
Yeah,
That was a great start to the morning,
it was
though.
an awesome start
Just
to the morning.
I think when the fish are happy like that, gets you so pumped. And then
Yeah.
you got up and you had a couple shots.
Couple shots, was able to get tight, which was good.
Took a while though. I remember.
It did take,
Yeah,
went
it took
to
a little
bunch
bit of
fish.
time.
It's weird how they can be so happy, absolutely happy to where they'll just launch forward and crush a fly, or they just want it, and then you move 100 yards and the fish is like, man, not playing this game.
At the end of the day, there's so many things that are trying to get to that fish. Like, right, their awareness is so good while they're on that flat because not only they're in shallow water, right, they're surrounded by the grass. Any little thing, any shadow, it's three people on a skiff walking around, stuff rolling around,
It's
camera
not
boxes
like we're the
being
only
shut.
ones that have gone after those
Yeah,
fish.
so,
Like,
and it's just that's another factor in saltwater fly fishing or just flood tide fishing in general. And you have all these different, like I said, all these different factors. Those fish are aware. You can see them, but a lot of times they know you're there. And once they do, their awareness is on 100. And as soon as you see that tail go up, that thing will sink down. And you're like, how can this fish disappear in this amount of water? And they do all the time, all the time. You come up to a happy fish, you're like, how? This fish is literally just Houdini'd us. He's there, might have heard us come up.
there was that one
shadow,
fish that we saw from so
back
far away,
into a corner,
300 yards,
just into a corner.
Like, I hate giving distances because it's like, oh, you're probably exaggerating. That fish was way out there. Like, he was so happy, tailing, flopping around. It was like you could see him from a ridiculous distance.
And then just was that the one Houdini'd?
No, we ended up getting to that fish.
Oh, okay, that's right.
And then we were quiet, everything, and then you dropped the fly line well out in front of it, and he just was he's just out, gone. I was like, well, all right.
Wild.
We're playing that game now.
One thing that I
Then they're the one that ate, and you could hear him eat.
Oh,
The one that popped.
because
he slurped it.
Like the
and
next
and
fish you ended up catching, but even that fish was on the verge like that.
Yeah, he was on the. Yeah, he was like.
kind of like.
Which ones? Yeah, there was one that we heard eat, like literally
Your
slurp.
fish.
Was it that
That
one
was
who ate
that
off the
one.
grass? That he ate.
because you were fishing off the left, I think. Or something.
Yeah, it's like all bundled up.
It meshes together.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
That was a cool fish.
Anytime you can get multiple fish on a flood, man, that's a good day, dude. That's a good day. There was days that we used to go out, man. We caught one. We're freaking through the moon.
Yeah, flood
we're
tide
through the
fishing
moon.
on the fly is definitely not
It's not a numbers game.
Well, you beat me to the words. It's not a numbers game. There are days where you can put up some numbers, but I'm out there for the challenge. I'm out there because I want it. Like, it's all trying to make all those things come together, and then trying to get that fish to eat, and it's the challenge that takes you out there. If you're thinking you're gonna go catch a bunch of fish, I mean, if you're if you've been doing it a while or you've been practicing, you can really cast and really put it where it needs to be consistently, maybe, but it's you're out there for the challenge.
Mm-hmm. I think something I noticed too was because the flood tide is a limited time. It's only a certain amount.
That was a funny thing that you weren't used to.
Yeah, because
the whole
I'm used to,
weekend.
you can go to the creek. That
Like,
run
we got
is
time
still
to do
going to
this or
be.
that. Yeah, and I'm like, no, dude, this water's dropping.
That's why you are so locked in when you're up there on the bow.
That's your window.
When you're filming, you're like, okay, I have this short window. We have to get all the shots.
That's one of the things that makes this area pretty not just this area. I mean, there are big tides from all up and down the East Coast. From Jacksonville to Wilmington, North Carolina. Like, there's big tides. So in these tidal zones, you're working with small windows of opportunity because that tide's just moving. 6 hours, 15 minutes, you're going from high to low. 6 hours, 15 minutes, you're back at high. Like, the water's just constantly moving. So trying to make, being at the right place at the right time, capitalizing on that. And around here, our tide is so big. Out of that whole stretch that I just talked about, like, we have the biggest tide out of all that. That water's just, it's moving. And so you have maybe 3 hours, maybe 4 on a really big tide, maybe 5 hours of flood tide. But
it's added pressure. It's added pressure behind the lens. It's added pressure. It's added pressure being that guy on the pointy on the bow trying to catch a fish. Because it's like a count. It's like a game. It's literally like a sports. There is a countdown. There's gonna be a moment where that clock hits 0. It's time to go home. Win or lose, you're going home.
Or you're stuck. Yesterday, or you're stuck. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
It was funny yesterday because there was a point where, like, I ran hard to get to a spot. We got there and you were inspired with something, and I've tried to not do that at all, but you were like, hey, I'd like to do that. I'm like, we got to go in there and see if these fish are here right now. We'll do that later.
Oh yeah, I was like some shot.
I was like, dude, we can get that another time. We have this like time, and we actually missed it. Like, we were there.
Tide waits for no man.
We were probably there 20. Yeah, the tide waits for no
man.
We were there probably 15, 20 minutes late, and those fish they left that Oyster Mound and went somewhere else, and they were not there at that time. And it's like, you're on a time constraint, and and that tide happens when it happens, whether it's first thing early in the morning or late in the evening or middle of the day. Like, it happens when it happens. If people, oh, I want to come, I want to go, but I want to go do dinner that night. It's like, dude, that's when the flood tide is, right. Or the low tide, or whatever prime fishing for the day may be.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I think that's why, maybe another reason why the short form video is just because it's only a short form, amount of time to fish, and especially on a flood. But I think that's what it adds to the intrigue. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse, because as much as we would love to be out there all day fishing for tailing fish. I mean, who wouldn't? It's if it was like that, would we enjoy it as much? Would we love it as much? Would we be as passionate about it as much? Would it make us better anglers if it was that way? I don't know. But because there is.
Louisiana is a lot of fun when you go there and they have a 1 to 2 foot tide and you can literally sight fish all day. Which, in theory, I don't want to, you can sight fish all day here, but there's periods of the tide where it's much harder and there's a lot more factors involved. But I get envious sometimes of their small tides. It's like, oh man, that'd be fun. It is fun.
But then on the flip side, you also have
But I love the dynamic,
the flood tides,
all
and
the
dynamic,
movement, and how it's a different thing every day. You cannot get in a rut around here. It's would be nearly impossible to get in a rut sight fishing in the general, on the East Coast here.
Yeah. It'd be great. I think that it there's no one way to do things, that you have to constantly adapt. And it's a fishery. Like you said, it's a very diverse fishery, but it's changing. It changes with the seasons, and if you're not completely in tune with it, or out there a lot, then there'll be some tough days out there.
There's tough days. I mean, there's tough days even if you're
tough days. But I'm just yeah.
You try, but you can get tough days. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say. Basically, your TikTok stuff. Obviously, you have the short form deal down. I know you have done some YouTube stuff, but what's holding you back from doing more YouTube?
Wow, nice
Dang,
question.
hit me with the deep cuts.
I'm like, Junior, when are we doing another like low? We didn't do a low tides video this year.
What's holding me back? It's. I think I wanna. If I'm gonna tell a story and I'm gonna do a long form video on it, I want to give that story justice, and I want to give it the time and the detail it deserves. So if I'm telling a story about Scotty and the story, the story of Wildfly, I want to give that story as much as much justice as I possibly can. With that being said, even if it's a fishery, even if it's Caribbean or Mexico, or even if it's the Everglades, whatever. If I want to give that fishery, that destination, justice, and I think I'm working towards. I think like Louisiana stuff like that, longer form stuff that I've been working on, that I hope can improve me as a film, as I guess a videographer, if that's even what you want to call it. But I think that's really it. I want to fine tune it so that I'm happy with the product I put out. I don't want to put, or I'm happy with the video I put out. I don't want to just put out this long video because I should, right? If I'm going to do it, I want to do it with all, full effort. I don't want to half-ass it. I want to full ass it. Was that what you said today on the skit?
Full ass it.
I think that's
get that
literally what you
tattooed on
said.
your butt.
But honestly, I just want to give the story. Like, if I'm going to give a long video, I want it to be a meaningful long video from minute 1 to minute 30, a meaningful video. But I think honestly, that's what it is, and hopefully I can transition into that, and go from there.
I like the little push though.
I would say
this is me forcing it with cameras rolling. Why are you gonna?
Well, I've obviously said it before, but I think that there's like a need for.
That's why I'm. That's why I like the question.
Yeah, there's a need for like good, genuine fly fishing content in the saltwater, especially like redfish stuff. And like you're doing on TikTok, you're making it accessible, you're making it relatable, and I think if you can take that into a longer form onto YouTube, I think hopefully some of the people watching would agree with me. I think you guys would kill it. And one counter to what you're saying about giving it justice, I do agree with that. But something that I think has really helped me improve over the years is I read something a while ago that said a good book that is published is better than a perfect book that's never written. Mm-hmm. And so I've taken that into my YouTube stuff of a lot of times, like I am a huge perfectionist when it comes to my work, and I'm sure you are as well. And it's very easy to not go through with the project because it's not perfect. Right?
Yeah.
It's not how you want it. But what I've found is if you can just finish a project, right? It doesn't have to be exactly how you wanted it to be, but it's good enough to put out. And you can do that over time. You then look back a year, 2 years from then, and you're like, wow, I've made so much progress. But if you never make that video over that course of time, that perfect video, you aren't gonna improve.
Yeah.
So that would just be something to consider that's helped me a ton.
Yeah, and my brain like works in weird ways where I'm like, I know that I'm capable of, like, for me making 3, short clips or whatever you want to call it a week, for me, like, that's doable. Like, for some reason, for me, like, how my brain, like, I know that I'm capable of doing that. But I'm like, okay, if I tried to do, one long video a week, am I going to be able to do that? Am I going to be capable and have the means to do that and give it the time it deserves? So for some reason, I'm like, you know what? That task looks a little bit less daunting. Like the short, like I could do 4 or 5 short clips, in a week. But for some reason, for me, that doesn't seem as daunting. But I think, like you said, telling that story for me seems like such a.
Well, so what length are your videos typically right now?
Like for TikTok?
Yeah. Like
I mean, anywhere from, 6 seconds to maybe 20 at the longest, 25 at the longest.
So you might be looking at long form, like the stuff I'm making, as like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You can make a 5-minute video.
Yeah.
That's long form to you.
Yeah.
5 minutes to 10 minutes. That's doable.
Yeah.
Dude, you could whip out a badass, like you guys go out for one day and fish. And you film. That's long form.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be these mega big films. But at the same time, I feel like the TikTok stuff, it is completing a project, right? They're smaller, but you are completing them, which gives you, like, you need to complete it to feel that kind of like
the gratification of it. Yeah.
Finishing a project. And then you're on to the next one.
Yeah.
So that in itself is kind of like finishing something.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
So
hopefully I'll get into it.
There's my push. Go spam ties and tails on TikTok.
Make long videos. Make long videos now, please.
Yeah. I guess to start wrapping this up, what is y'all's biggest takeaway from this past weekend and this trip that we went on? Just the whole experience.
You gonna start, Rob?
Yeah, I think for me, like I said, we've obviously carried, the camera comes along plenty of times going fishing. But for me, it was interesting seeing how you it was already mentioned once, but it was interesting seeing how you put together one of these films. I almost imagine, or in my mind, I thought the camera basically would be like running the whole time from start to finish. And the reality is, we only captured a small part of the entire experience of the weekend, the 3 days that we fished. Yeah, it was, but yet you're still putting that story together, because obviously people aren't going to watch 70 something hours of film. Like, so you're very deliberately putting together that story, and all that other time, we were just having fun, goofing off, and like having a good time with it. So that was interesting, like to see like, oh, the camera's not running the whole time. Yeah, that was weird. Seeing a film put together like that was interesting. But in general, it was fun to learn. It was fun to learn that side of what you're doing there. So I enjoyed it.
I think the coolest part was, and this is probably my biggest takeaway, is having that struggle in the beginning. Like there was some pretty low moment, like some pretty we were like really grinding there for a bit, right? Not just with the fishing, just all of it, just we're really into the thick of it a little bit, really grinding it out, really pretty much struggling, and then at the end having the glory, having the success, it just makes that success so much sweeter. Like, yes, the experience is awesome. Yes, the low country is awesome. Yes, tailing redfish are great. But you can't fake the stuff that we went. Like, there's no, what we went through and what we had to go through to have that success, to catch the fish, to make, like, it's you almost couldn't even write a better script for the weekend. Like, yeah, did the sand net suck? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yes, was it blowing 30? Yes. But, once you see that tailing fish 30 feet away, all those go out the window, dude. And when you get that fish to eat and that fish comes to hand, it's just such it's such a awesome moment. And those struggles have made those moments in the end so much sweeter. And to be able to let Scotty experience a weekend with us. So many people come, Scotty, and they experience 4 hours with us, hang out with us 4 hours. They might shoot, they might fish. But you got to spend 3-4 days with us and really see, who we really are, what this place is really about, and the beauty behind it, and why it's so special, and why it's so important. And I think that, with that being said, I know you can probably touch on that too, but, it's just really cool. And also having you on the skiff and you listening to us and seeing things, seeing things from through your lens, and then seeing you literally grow in literally 48 hours as a fly fisherman. Not saying you weren't great in December, because you were, but seeing you asking questions on why, like genuine questions on, did I do anything wrong here? Why didn't that fish eat? Genuine curiosity, not because the film was, because the camera was rolling, and you taking that information, processing that, and applying it. There's so many people that hop on the skiff with us where, I'm not saying that me and Rob know everything, but, we're out there enough to be able to, hey, maybe just try this, or maybe try to do this. And it goes throughout one, goes in one ear, out the other, where you actually applied it and you used it, and ultimately you got the reward for it. And that should be like such an awesome feeling for you. I know I'm ecstatic. I'm through there. I was so excited for you. I was like through the roof. I was so happy. And I think Rob's face says it all. on the film. You were pretty excited too.
Yeah.
And you dropped your coffee and phone all at the same time while he
dude,
caught
so
it. So you were just everything was getting thrown everywhere.
Stuff happened this weekend that like I'm on the boat nearly every day, and the coffee doesn't come off the boat. I haven't dropped my phone in years.
Drop the phone in. Yeah. That was good.
How would you give us a breakdown? How do you feel about the weekend? How do you feel it went?
Dude, I had a blast, man. And I appreciate what you're saying. And for you guys listening, don't think that I'm some perfect fly angler in the low country. I still struggled quite a bit, but
I would caveat real quick, like that's the beauty of fly fishing. Like
yes.
you're always trying. If you
Yes.
ever master it, it's nearly impossible to master it.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
It's a tough. I mean, and it's, there's a lot of people who are comfortable in their little space. There's so many people who are just, I'm good at trout. I like trout. I don't want to venture. The saltwater stuff seems scary or seems daunting. And you took it with full, hey, let's do it. Yeah, come on. I'll film it. We'll film it. And you're going to capture some moments that are low. And you're going to capture some minutes some moments that are super high. And I think that there's something to be said there as well. Is there's so many people that, I look at trout stuff and I'm like, man, some of that stuff is just like a foreign language to me.
Midges, 6X tippet.
I have
Yeah.
so much to learn.
People
World.
tie flies this small, dude. I can't even see this fly. Like, dude, what?
2 weeks ago, I was in Brevard. And I was trying to tie like
Mike.
tiny line. That little tiny line. I was trying to demonstrate. I was like, how do people do that? I'm used to 15, 20-pound tests or just whipping around. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just get so
funny.
comfortable in your little space because it's what you know, right? And it's like you almost don't want to throw yourself out there and you don't want to try something new because for the fear of failure. Where you took it with open arms, and not saying you haven't done saltwater stuff in the past, but it's every destination is different, every fishery is different. So to you to do that and immerse yourself in it it was pretty awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, dude, definitely. And I would say coming down here, and when we started planning out this trip, well, initially when I met you guys, I felt like I was saying earlier, we just clicked right off the bat. And I'm always drawn to the people that I meet, and the
Well said.
and people that, kind of have that same drive, right? That who want to challenge themselves, who like the similar things that I like. They want to constantly get better at their craft, whatever it is. And I could tell right off the bat that you guys had that. And so that was great. And so I think coming down here and when we were planning the film, I really wanted to capture the full experience. Because like when we fished just without filming back in December, we had so much fun. And that was just one day, a couple hours.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to come down here and with the film and everything, like capture everything, like what that really feels like, and hopefully bring the audience along with us. Because like you said, the saltwater thing does seem very unattainable. And it might be for some people. Like, I mean, I've been fly fishing for like 10 plus years now, and I am just barely starting to understand it and get into it. So it might take some time, but I do want to make it feel like it's accessible to people. And so I would say just the overall experience was amazing. Obviously hanging out with you guys was a blast, and just getting to capture it all. And now I'm pumped to get in the editing office and just crank away, dude.
Yeah, slave away, lock in. I think it's like, putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation only helps you grow as an angler, helps you grow as a videographer. And yeah, man, it was an awesome weekend, dude.
That was a lot of fun.
It was awesome. For all the crazy things that had happened, it was just a pretty awesome weekend at the end of the day.
It was
Feels like a week long, but it's a couple
Feels like
days.
it's been a lot longer in a couple
Yeah,
of
and we
days.
might fish tomorrow. We'll see.
Yeah, we might. Yeah.
If the weather lets us.
So,
Yeah. Man. Well, let's end it on that, boys. We got to get to bed here, and
maybe hit in the morning.
maybe
Scotty, we appreciate you coming out, man.
Dude, it was,
It was
a lot of
awesome,
fun.
dude.
Thank you for coming
dude, I
down.
appreciate you
That was fun.
guys hosting me.
Absolutely.
Junior's
Sweet.
first podcast.
First podcast ever.
How'd it go? How you feeling?
I think we did all right.
All
Maybe.
right. Yeah.
We kept the
Your
cursing down to a
voice never
minimal.
cracked, so it's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sweet, boys. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, fellas.
Great weekend. We'll do it again soon.
Yes.
See you guys in the next one. Take care.